Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this hearing of the Budget and Finance Committee for Monday, October 28th, 2019. I'm Paul Krikorian, joined by my colleagues, Mr. Blumenfield and Mr. Price, and we're ready to begin today's meeting. Members, I would have proposed items 6 and 7 for consent approval, but we do have comments on those items, so we'll take those up for approval after our multi-item speakers. What I'm going to do is, after those items, take up the I think we can go fairly quickly through the closed session items. So let's go ahead and finish the closed session items. Sorry, folks, and then we'll take up the FSR so that we can, if there's no one in the back there, that'll be the easiest. Are we using the overflow room at the moment? Okay, let's go ahead and begin with our multi-item speakers first. So that would be Mr. Previn, please.
Thank you. Are you going to allow us to comment after the FSR report, or this is it?
No, this is it.
Okay.
So,
well,
Previn.
yeah, sure. I'll go on to the FSR.
Hold on 1 second, Mr. Previn.
Oh, you're running my clock, sir.
No, stop his start his time when I say. So, Mr. Previn, followed by Mr. Herman, and and that'll be it.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
So the FSR, the big story is that there's enormous unforeseen, but we knew about them, labor costs that are being rolled into the next period. And you are requesting, which is quite bold, a 3% rollback from the various departments, which I think it's a high bar while also providing the services that we're accustomed to. So I wish you the very best of luck. And I note that there's the $10 million kind of liability for the miscalculation and the tax. I don't know how that, but I know they need $10 million right away. So that had to be addressed. I know there's going to be more, but these liability costs are devastating. And I know you're about to go in the back to talk about Pearl, which I think was originally $17 million, and we got negotiated down slightly. We have just a bloodbath of retaliation, harassment, and civil rights violations. So I urge you to come up with a strategy that includes a corrective action plan. It's off the charts. Specifically regarding the liability accounts, which is on your agenda today, through September 30th, which is just a quarter, we've spent, I believe, 40 of the $123 million that we have allotted for the year, which doesn't look great. I mean, if we were going that rate through the rest of the period, we'd be at 160, which is, the current price is doing the math as am I, something like $40–50 million over, hopefully not. And we do control a lot of that, so I anticipate a lot will be held off until after the election time. The one thing that did come up regarding election time is there's something called the City Attorney Association PAC. I don't know if all of you have been, I know Krikorian got an $800.
So what item does this refer to, Mr. Previn, because you're an agenda item?
I was talking about the liability account issue, and what we're trying to do is tie to it the concerns about pouring all this money out the door, including Mike Feuer pouring money, basically ratepayer money out the door because he's concerned about his own team self-incriminating, which, is the DWP case that's been covered by the LA Times.
Okay, so. Thank you. Mr. Herman. You're speaking to agenda items, Mr. Herman.
Title 6, 1964, 42 U.S.C. 2000D. Fees for sidewalks. Well, already you're on a bad start in retaliation against people with disabilities because you bring such liability and disgust when you have such chinchero like yourselves, the city of Los Angeles, filthy, dirty Los Angeles, for neighborhoods, parks, arts, river committees, allowing this to happen. Sidewalks are meant for pedestrian right-of-ways, not for nimble souls to have a slip and fall accident, as I brought out during the claims for the record. On item number 2, I demanded 45% attorney costs for Pearl and any other incident involving the liability of the city of Los Angeles, because we have the largest budget in favor of paying people for liability. In addition to item number 3, James Gordon versus City of Los Angeles, it's apparent. It's retaliation, harassment, the same I got on the TROs. And then in addition to item number 4, no one cares about the epidemic. Let's just keep pushing Prop 64. Let's keep pushing convenience and necessity for more drugs and liquor stores to be sold on our manufacturing of streets, distribution throughout the city of Los Angeles, and let's give retailers a go, 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 fuck them with opioids more to keep them off the street. Then in addition to that, animal welfare, woo, woo, dog speaking, woo, woo, woo. Yeah, animal welfare regarding that $6 million, fuck the liability of the services, division care program, because there's no such thing as public hygiene, assholes.
Thank you. That will complete our multi-item speakers. So, members, I would propose that we note and file item number 6, and that we approve the CAO's recommendations on item number 7. If there's no objection, that will be the action of the committee. And we'll proceed now into, and by the way, comment on all of the closed session items is now closed. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and proceed now into closed session. We'll go ahead and stay seated. We'll move to the back, and we'll begin with item number 3.
Wesson, Justin Wesson, please return the money.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience. We are back now in open session, and we'll go ahead and proceed with item number 5, the first financial status report for 2019-2020.
Item number 5 is the City Administrative Officer report relative to the first financial status report for fiscal year 2019-20.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Members of the Budget and Finance Committee, my name is Maria Gutierrez. I'm with the City Administrative Officer. Today we are presenting our first financial status report of the fiscal year. This report summarizes the closeout of the 2018-19 budget and provides an update on the current year budget. Our office has identified approximately $149 million in projected overspending in the current year, and this is mainly due to additional salary obligations pursuant to various new labor agreements. With the exception of the coalition labor agreement and related Me Too provisions included in other civilian MOUs, the budget did not include funding for recently approved labor agreements or for any future agreements that are currently pending. Not including this funding is consistent with the city's practice of not budgeting for pending labor agreements in light of the uncertainty with how negotiations will conclude. While these unfunded obligations are a challenge to manage, with fiscal prudence and healthy reserves, we anticipate that we will be able to fully address this overspending by the year end. Our city reserve fund is at 6.38%, which is approximately $419 million. This is higher than the 6.25% assumed in the adopted budget. Our total reserves are at 8.66%, which is approximately $569.2 million. While our reserve fund is strong, we recommend against using the reserve fund to fund new programs, program expansions, and service restorations at this time in light of the financial risks ahead. In addition to current year overspending, this report highlights additional pressures on the city budget that will need to be managed in the years ahead. In the 4-year outlook section of this report, we recognize some of these challenges impacting the expenditure and revenue assumptions, including the manifestation of several indicators of a slowing economy. For example, drop in sales of previously owned homes and manufacturing activity. The city must prepare for these uncertain times. For this reason, this office also recommends a plan to prepare for the future, to position departments to gradually and in a controlled manner curtail spending with minimum impact to service levels. I call your attention to recommendations 17 and 18 of our FSR. In these recommendations, we recommend that the City Council instruct all city departments to submit ongoing 3% general fund expenditure reduction proposals, primarily comprised of curtailing spending on salaries and including a hiring plan designed to achieve these reductions as part of their October FSR, which will be due to our office on November 8th. This is the first step towards making structural changes to address these fiscal challenges in future budgets. Our plan is that as departments report back based on this instruction, we will present the council in the upcoming FSR to be released most likely in early December with the status of this exercise. Relative to revenue, our final 2018-19 general fund receipts were $6.24 billion, which is $31.8 million above the revised budget, mainly due to higher property, business, and sales taxes. Based on revenue data through September, 2019-20 revenue is at $46.6 million above planned receipts due to higher receipts in various revenue categories, mainly departmental receipts. However, with only 3 months of revenue data, it is still too early to project year-end revenue. More than 90% of business tax receipts are received after January 1st. Known revenue issues currently include the utility users tax revenue, which faces downward pressures across all categories, including electric users tax, gas users, and communications users tax. This is due to market forces and litigation. Our report also highlighted revenue issues concerning the transient occupancy tax. We highlighted this revenue source as an issue of concern because currently this collection agreement will expire. However, the Office of Finance has since updated that they are coming closer to agreeing to indefinitely extending the collection agreement with Airbnb. Regarding our expenditures, the year-end expenditure imbalance of approximately $149 million is mostly attributed to the following categories. Projected overspending of $47.98 million in the police department, primarily due to new sworn and civilian labor agreements. There are unfunded costs of up to $43 million from the special items in new labor agreements not currently included in department expenditure projections. Some of this amount, however, will be offset by special funds and absorbed within department's current appropriations. There is also projected overspending of $26.05 million in the fire department due to unbudgeted salary adjustments from new sworn labor agreements, but also overspending in various overtime and expense accounts. There's projected overspending of approximately $15.6 million in the Human Resources Benefits Fund due to increased workers' compensation costs of approximately $10 million, with the remainder attributed to increased employer contributions to health care as included in the new labor agreements. Additionally, there is approximately $11.3 million combined in unfunded costs attributed to the March 2020 election and the Ardon settlement. These were items that were not anticipated at the time of the development of the budget. As far as our current year budget balancing strategy, the recommendations in this FSR address $1.36 million of this overspending, leaving $147.57 million to be addressed. This office has identified potential future actions that, if taken, could address an additional $36.5 million, leaving $111 million with no identified solutions at this time. However, to the extent possible, departments will be required to absorb or manage unfunded costs within existing funds. Further, we anticipate that some of this overspending will be partially offset by special funds. We would like to highlight our four-year budget outlook. The 2019-20 adopted budget four-year outlook is based on the current year budget and projections of revenues and expenditures over the next 4 years. At the time of the adopted budget, we projected surpluses in every year of the outlook for the first time since 2000-2001. Subsequent to the release of the adopted budget, the city reached agreements with various civilian and sworn labor units. Including the impacts of these agreements in the 2019-20 adopted budget outlook turns the projected surpluses in each of the 4 years to deficits ranging from $200 million to $400 million per year. Other pending labor agreements, pension system assumption changes, or major city construction projects could exacerbate the projected deficits. While the current year budget assumes above-average revenue growth at 6.1%, attributed to one-time transfers and new ongoing revenue, average growth is projected for future years in the 2 to 3% range. In the likely event that growth slows from its recent extraordinary levels to historical averages, the city revenue will be inadequate to cover anticipated expenditure obligations. In recent months, leading economic indicators and the ongoing trade war have generated concern among economists about the likelihood of a slowing economy. According to the Wall Street Journal's Economic Forecasting Survey, 75% of the economists surveyed expected a recession to occur in either 2020 or 2021. The budget balancing recommendations 17 and 18 of our report are the first step towards making structural changes to address these fiscal challenges in future budgets. In addition to these recommendations, this office recommends approximately $114.68 million in budgetary adjustments in this FSR. These include $37.51 million in reductions in appropriations from various grants and special funds with no programmatic impacts. Additionally, $32.16 million in MICLA reauthorizations for the Convention Center, the Fire Department, and the Police Department. We would also like to introduce an amendment to our FSR at the request of the Fire Department, and this is a result of the recent fires and the work that the Fire Department has been doing. They would like to increase the amount to be transferred from the unappropriated balance mutual aid overtime account to the Fire Department overtime sworn account from $1.5 million to $3 million. So that would consist of an amendment to attachment 9 of our report. We're available to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Thank you very much for your report, Ms. Gutierrez, and happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
Glad that we could bring so many people together to celebrate with you today. Obviously, a projected deficit of this amount is sobering. It is also almost entirely the result of collective bargaining agreements that have been entered into with the vast majority of our 30,000 employees. And as you pointed out, it's long been the policy of the city not to budget anticipated increases in pay that haven't been negotiated yet in the budget. So that is the largest driver of this. Is that right? The multiple collective bargaining agreements?
For the current year budget, yes, the unbudgeted salary adjustments.
Yes. So I also want to make sure that we point out, because it otherwise gets lost in the context of this, that that deficit number is entirely expense-driven. So the unanticipated or unbudgeted nearly $50 million in increased revenues that have been realized are deemed to go into the reserve fund, and so they aren't factored into this. They aren't offset against that additional cost. Is that a fair summary?
At this time, we are not, our report does not assume a transfer from the reserve fund to offset any of these expenditures.
Right. So the year-end surplus that we had, if you will, over budgeted assumptions, that is considered to go into the reserve fund. It's not an offset against, unless we act otherwise, it's not an offset against that $148 million.
Any unencumbered funds at the end of the year are basically transferred to the reserve fund, so that is contributing to our 6.38%.
Right. Total reserves, 8.66%, over $500 million in reserves, over $400 million of which is immediately available. Is that right, too?
Pardon me?
Our total reserves are at 8.66%, over $500 million, and I think $400 million of that is the available reserves.
Right, so about 419, I believe, is in the reserve fund. That is, of course, divided between the emergency reserve and the contingency reserve, both which can be transferred by action of the council and mayor under different scenarios and different levels of approvals.
Okay. So obviously those are reasonably healthy reserves, much higher than what we've had in past years, but you are entirely correct in reminding us, and I hope that you will continue to remind us and all of the members of the council that we continue to face uncertainty in the future over many different factors that could significantly impact the health of this budget. State of the macroeconomic factors, the national trade issues, potential significant liability. All of those are factors that we've talked about year in and year out for 8 years now as being things that we have to continue to be cautious of and prepare for. And that's why we've built up an 8.66% reserve to help cushion the blow of any of those outcomes that may come. So I thank you for saying it again. It's important that we all be mindful of this, that we need to prepare and continue to be prudent about preparing for those sorts of adverse consequences that are really, some of which are a virtual certainty. It's a question of which budget year they'll come. You know, when the economy takes a downturn, when we have slowing revenues. We don't know whether it'll be this fiscal quarter or 3 years from now, but it will come. Everything that goes up has to come down. So thank you for that reminder. So with that, questions before we go to departments, questions for the CAO. Mr. Blumenfield.
Thank you, and appreciate the report, and echo what Mr. Chairman has said. Of all the labor agreements, how much is left that could still be a liability for the next year in terms of just ballpark percentage-wise?
Well, there's actually 2 units that are pending, the CIA and the one of the city attorney bargaining units. At this time, those agreements are pending, and we don't have any cost figures.
But it's a relatively small amount compared to the amount that we've done so far.
We've done the majority, so it would be lesser than what you see in this FSR.
Okay, but that, I guess, is something in the future FSR we're going to, eyes wide open, have to deal with.
We'll continue to track those.
Yeah. Now, leaving the vacancies in special funded positions impacts the general fund because it reduces the amount, it's kind of counterintuitive. It reduces the amount of reimbursements to the general fund. So how are we going to ensure that we make that departments don't leave these vacancies in the special funded positions because of the impact, because A, it's important to get done what those things are funded for, but B, it ends up putting pressure on the general fund when we don't fill the special fund vacancies because it ends up getting, we can't spread that cost, overhead cost across the general fund funded departments.
So what we envision is that this would be part of that whole budget balancing for the current year. That is part of the department's hiring plans that they would resubmit as part of the second FSR, that they would prioritize those positions. And there could potentially be a shifting of general fund positions to special funds. So it's something departments will need to look at with that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Price?
Yeah, that question regarding whether departments, can we jump into that now? Or
If you don't have anything for the CAO, we will go to our departmental roll call. So which departments would each of you like to ask questions?
I had a question about cannabis regulation.
DCR, okay. Any others? Mr. Blumenfield?
Yeah, EWDD, HCID, and sanitation.
WDD, HCID, sanitation. Okay. Cannabis, EWDD, HCID, sanitation. Any others? Final call.
Clerk for elections?
Anybody else? All right. If you are not here from DCR, EWDD, HCID, or sanitation, thank you very much for your patience. Thanks for coming down. Have a great day. See you next time. And if you can, please exit the room as quietly as you can so we can get back to work. Expeditiously and quietly, please. And while they're exiting, let me just also take the opportunity to remind everybody, if you have cell phones, if you could please turn them down or put them on mute, that'd be great. Okay, and as they're exiting, let's go ahead and bring up DCR first. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Nick Campbell, CAO's office.
Mr. Price.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being present this afternoon. Our cannabis program is certainly something that we have looked at as a source of potential revenue. We thought it would be a spike in revenue. Just kind of curious how that is factoring out. How does revenue look? Do we have enough personnel to carry out the functions? How is inspection coming? Overall, what's the status of the program?
I would have to ask the department to speak to the overall status. I'm not sure if they have representatives here yet. They have been hiring up in terms of staffing. They still have about a 20% vacancy rate, but they have a plan to resolve that over the next several months. So I can speak to that, and I would turn to Melissa here in terms of revenue.
Similarly-
Can anyone speak to revenue?
I can speak to, I cannot speak to the cannabis revenue for business tax. That is commingled with all our business tax receipts. Our business tax receipts are on plan right now, and that includes receipts from all businesses that pay gross receipts. We have asked the Office of Finance to provide us a breakdown, and we can get that to your office before this gets to council.
Thank you. I'd like to get that. What else can you tell me about cannabis? Anything else? Anybody else?
Well,
Unfortunately, I think representatives from the department are on their way.
All right. Okay, we'll wait.
they are on their way?
I believe so.
Okay. Well, maybe we can then come back when and if
That's fine.
they get here. So
All right, thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and bring up EWDD next, please.
We could enforce against the bad cannabis ones. We might actually start collecting revenue from the license.
The new ones, right.
Which part?
EWDD.
Oh, great.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Shafia Amir from the CEO's office.
Anthony Sanchez with EWDD.
Mr. Blumenfield.
Thank you. And, ask a similar question to each of the departments, and it's related to the previous question I asked, because you guys have a fairly high vacancy rate. But you've got critical functions regarding economic development, which we're trying to emphasize with the economic development strategy, the jobs plan, et cetera. In the big picture, we expect these efforts to pay off, to pay for themselves by boosting the overall economy, reducing costs of social services, all those good things. So I'm just worried that we're being penny-wise and pound-foolish by not having adequate staff. And what can you tell me about how we are going to reduce this vacancy rate so that we're not being penny-wise and pound-foolish. We're actually maximizing the efforts that we have all agreed we need to put forward.
A large part of our vacancies are actually workforce funded. We have workforce funding in our department as well as economic development funding. The good news is that the economic development funding is not creating a large impact on our vacancies. We do have actually a handful of vacancies that are currently going through the hiring process that are economic development positions. As far as the workforce funding, our funding comes from the annual plan, which is the collection of the federal, state, and county workforce grants. We're also currently in the process of going through the carry-in report process, which will calculate the funding that we have carrying over from the previous fiscal year, from 18-19. So we're going to look at what funding we do have, what funding we'll carry in, and which positions we can fill, which we may need to continue to hold vacant.
Okay. Well, suffice to say, I'm just concerned about it. It is particularly high, and we'll be keeping a close eye on it and hope that you guys can do all those things and do them expeditiously. So,
Certainly.
thank you.
And just to add on to that, given the CAO's recommendations about finding departmental reductions in order to be able to continue to maintain our reserve levels and still address the increased costs of this year's budget, I think all departments will have a greater challenge in filling vacancies. And so as we do that, it's going to be incumbent upon the departments and this committee and the council to prioritize where that hiring should take place, and especially around those investments that will produce the most impact, and both in terms of services and in terms of revenues. So I think that's, as much as keeping an eye on the vacancy rate itself, we're going to have to work closely with the departments to ensure that the right vacancies are filled, because some are not going to be able to.
We've got to be strategic, and we also have to remember that a special funded vacancy is actually a drain on the general fund. Not, it doesn't help the general fund to have a vacancy in the special fund. It actually drains the general fund because you can't spread the overhead, et cetera.
Right.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Anything else for EWDD? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and bring up HSID next. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Emily Zin Cervantes, Office of the CAO.
Good afternoon. Rosa Benavides, HSID.
Mr. Blumenfield.
Similar concern, you can probably guess. You're on the front lines dealing with the housing crisis, both in terms of getting the Triple H and other affordable housing built and built quickly, protecting tenants, advocating for housing policy, critical functions. And appropriately, the public is very frustrated with the slow pace of getting supportive housing projects built. And so that makes me very concerned. We have a 21% vacancy rate in the department, and we're dealing with these issues that just cannot wait. So what are we going to do to get that vacancy rate lowered and get folks hired to do the work that we need them to do?
The department has made it a priority to fill the vacancies. We've actually been holding various interviews for various classifications every month. We've been successful for some classifications. For example, the Finance Development Officer, one of our most technical classifications. We held interviews this month, and we made 6 offers. So that's good progress. The same for the Management Assistants. We made offers for 12 positions. So it has been a priority for the department. Sometimes attrition gets in the way, though.
So I hear that, and I appreciate that. I know, it's tremendously difficult, but I'm just saying, sitting where I'm sitting and looking at that vacancy rate and all the problems that we have, we're not going fast enough. We've got to double those efforts. And so I'll just put that out there, and we'll watch it closely and work with you. But I wanted to use this opportunity to encourage everything we can to get these vacancy rates down in these departments that are critical to these crisis issues that we're facing.
Thank you very much. All right, that will bring up sanitation next. Good afternoon.
Claudia Aguilar with the CAO's office. Lisa Mowry, LA Sanitation and Environment.
Mr. Blumenfield.
Okay, I know I sound like a broken record. As I told you, I was going to bring up the same issue with each of the departments. You guys have a 19% vacancy rate. Wanted to ask you, where is it most acute? And I'm just worried that, I don't want to have a failure to fill the funded and authorized positions that result in a failure to provide street and sidewalk sanitation services that are desperately needed. It's part and parcel of our homeless crisis. Probably the biggest concern that constituents have, and is seeing the state of our streets, which has been deteriorating. So how are we going to get that vacancy rate down, and where are the needs most acute?
Sure. Part of the reason the vacancy rate is so high is that between the budget that was adopted for 1920 and some subsequent actions in July, we actually received 117 new positions. So that dug the hole a little deeper for us. The good news is, as of the end of September, we were at a 17.1 vacancy rate. So we chopped away almost 2%. We're plus 55 net in hiring this year. We've actually hired quite a bit more than that. But while we're bringing people in, we continue to have people leave for opportunities elsewhere in the city and retire. So we do have the hiring process cranked up and focused on that. The good news as far as the work around the homeless encampments, all of those positions have been filled for the the October 1st launch of the CARE program. So we have been successful in getting those positions filled so we can make sure those critical services are being offered. Aside from that, positions are scattered throughout our organization. One of the things that always makes the hiring challenging for us is we have vacancies in more than 100 different classifications right now. So we are focusing on those classifications where we have large numbers of vacancies as a way of getting large gains. But it does mean, unfortunately, that there are other classifications that it may take us 6 months before we work our way around to those because we just can't have 100 different hiring processes opened all at once. But we are seeing good gains, and we expect to build on that for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
You know, on that point, it's not something that we can do directly through the council, but it would be, I think, instructive for us in entering into future negotiations with our labor partners to have some recommendations on consolidation of classifications, because preparing 100 different tests and going through 100 different cycles of recruitment and hiring for positions that probably have a lot of overlap, it just seems very inefficient. And so I think, and your department or your bureau probably has more than most in that respect. But your recommendations along those lines for consolidation would be welcome.
We would be delighted to work with you on that.
And related to that is, thank you for, in this year's budget, creating the new environmental deputy position. I don't remember what we exactly call the classification, but the environmental compliance officer position. It's an important step forward in trying to make our homelessness response more cost-effective and also helping to retain people to do the work. But I'd also like to continue to look at whether we can have additional categories of employment below that position, reporting to that position, under that person's direct supervision and responsibility. Still in keeping with state, federal regulations and all the other requirements that we have to meet there. But is it possible to have targeted local hire positions, for example, to serve as a force multiplier for those environmental compliance officers? I think that would be, if we can do that and still be in compliance with the regulatory mandates that we have, that would be a big step forward in maximizing the footprint of sanitation out there at the lowest possible cost.
Great, will do.
Thank you. Anything else for sanitation, Mr. Price?
Yeah, just one quick question again. Thank you for the report. I want to piggyback on the comments that my colleague made about the importance of the department, obviously, in quality of life, keeping our streets clean, and the interaction with our homeless strategy. You mentioned, or did you mention, the status of the CARE and the CARE Plus? Did you say they are staffed up now with CARE and the CARE Plus, or are we still trying to fill those slots?
Correct. We had those staffed up for the new deployment plan launch for October 1st.
So they both are covered then?
Yes, they are.
Thank you. Good.
All right. Thank you very much. So that will bring up DCR. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jason Klein for the Department of Cannabis Regulation.
Thank you. Mr. Price.
Thank you. Thanks for coming back. Had a question about just the status of the department, where we are with revenues. We know initially we thought it was going to really be a bonanza. It hasn't quite worked out to be quite the bonanza we anticipated, but kind of where are we in terms of revenues coming in, the stage of processing licenses, current stage, and how we are on enforcement on the other side.
Sure. So the department is on budget for meeting its revenue targets for this year.
Which are?
100% of the department's revenues are generated through the Cannabis Special Revenue Trust Fund from licensing and renewal fees. So we are on budget. We have completed the acceptance for the Phase 3 retail round 1 application process, which started on September 3rd. So during that phase, we received 802 applications. And through our council authority, we have the authority to process the first 100 complete applications. Our Phase 2 applicants are starting the annual process in early January, and our Phase 1 applicants, and we have 188 of those, are already going through their annual application process, and they're due to pay their renewal fees for calendar year 2020 next year. So as a department, we are on track.
How does revenue look? How are we on track with revenue?
So the revenue looks good from our perspective, and working with the Office of Finance.
Any idea what that number is?
Our number for the calendar year is...
Any way you want to present
it's $12 million. We've brought in just under $1 million this year. Applicants from Phase 3 have started to pay their invoices, so that revenue is coming in. And then, of course, our Phase 1 and our Phase 2 businesses, and there's an excess of 300 of those locations, are paying their renewal fees between now and next March. So we will hit our revenue as a department. For business tax revenue, those revenues continue to track. We anticipate a spike in revenues sometime in mid to late spring. So before the end of the calendar year, we anticipate that our Phase 3 businesses, whether it's through the retail storefront or through the delivery pilot program, will have received their temporary approvals, and they will be generating revenue and remitting those business taxes to the city. So at this time, we anticipate that we'll hit the $60 million in cannabis-related business tax revenues coming into the city.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Bloomfield? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Gutierrez, you mentioned an amendment with regard to the fire department's transfers due to the fires.
Yes.
Was there something else that you wanted to add to this?
So I understand that there is also an amendment from the CLA's office.
Oh, from the CLA. Okay.
That should be on file, as should the CO recommended amendment for the fire department. Should also be on file.
Sir, would you like me to summarize the CLA's amendment?
Yes.
Because it's kind of worded there. I won't read the whole thing.
Summarize it.
There are three recommendations for amendment. The first is to transfer $1.6 million for sidewalk repairs in Council District 14 from the Real Property Trust Fund, as well as the Street Furniture Revenue Fund. The second recommendation is to transfer and appropriate $20,000 from AB 1290 funds to the Board of Public Works, Office of Community Beautification for ongoing maintenance of trees at Eagle Rock Park, Hollenbeck Park, and Arroyo Seco Park. And the final recommendation is to transfer $286,873 from the Capital Improvement Expenditure Program to General Services for various expenditures for maintenance improvements and equipment to various counts.
Okay. So with those amendments, members, is there any objection to approving the FSR as amended? All right. Seeing none, that will be the action of the committee. Thank you very much. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go ahead and take up item number 9. I can ask the Bureau of Sanitation and the CAO to come on up.
Item number 9 is the CEO and Bureau of Sanitation reports relative to mobile hygiene services and additional overtime funding for the Livability Services Division CARE program. The Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee waived consideration of this matter. It's also been referred to Energy, Climate Change, and Environmental Justice Committee and the Homelessness and Poverty Committee.
All right, we have no speakers on this matter other than those who already spoke, so go right ahead.
Lisa Mowry, Chief Financial Officer from LA Sanitation and Environment, joined here by Gabe Miranda, who's our Division Manager for Livability Services Division, and Claudia Aguilar from the CAO. The report before you is an amendment to a report that Sanitation submitted September 14th of 2019, dealing with two basic issues. One is funding related for rolling out mobile hygiene centers to be deployed with our Care Plus teams that we were just talking about. This will provide an opportunity as the LA San crews are in an area doing comprehensive cleanups of homeless encampment areas. It provides the opportunity for the unsheltered individuals who are vacating that space for the cleaning to occur, rather than moving a block or two away and potentially creating sanitary issues in that area. This provides them the opportunity to take advantage of these hygiene services, restrooms, take showers, and we're really looking at it as a platform upon which other services can be built. If there are other, for instance, community-based organizations that can offer assistance to these individuals, they can station themselves along with the mobile hygiene centers. The second part of the report deals with a request for $750,000 in overtime for the work that the livability services teams do. And what this is really intended to do is take care of, well, obviously, emergency cases. For instance, when we're in high fire times, the crews can be used to work in areas where homeless encampments are found in the high fire severity zones to assist with, as those encampments get evacuated, can assist in dealing with any materials that are left behind, particularly wanting to make sure that there aren't any potentially flammable materials that get left in these zones, as well as the more day-to-day situations of the comprehensive cleaning crews, because the work that they do has to be posted and notice provided that they're going to be coming in and doing cleanings, is going to be well planned out for the course of a month, so we can make sure we're doing all the appropriate legally required postings. We don't want situations where it's the end of the day, the crew has like an hour's worth of work to do. Then you're faced with, do we demobilize and they come back out there the following day and potentially throw off the schedule for the rest of the week? Do they walk away and leave a site not completely cleaned, which we know results in a lot of concerns from the neighboring communities? Sanitation's out there, but they left all this stuff. So we have a need to be able to, maybe it's an extra half hour or it's an extra hour, so the crews can get that site clean, not leave anything there, but also not have to come back out the next day and just throw off the schedule. So those are the two main items that are covered by this report.
Thank you. Members? Mr. Price.
Well, this is an exciting development, I think. I had an opportunity to see one of these vehicles up close last Monday. Very impressive. They're spacious, they are functional, and they hopefully will be placed where the needs are. And I guess that's kind of my opening question. How are we going to deploy these trailers? Who's making the decision? Where they go? Sanitation, UHRC, the council office. How do we decide where they're going, how long they're going to stay?
Good afternoon, Gabe Miranda, Division Manager with Livability Services Division. To answer that question, throughout the rollout from October 1st, we're determining best practices as it relates to the hygiene unit. So the current model is we deploy the unit in conjunction with the Care Plus operation. We're currently doing it the day before, so we can provide that much necessary service the day before a comprehensive Care Plus operation. The collaboration involves the Unified Homelessness Response Center, obviously the council offices, in determining these locations to ensure that folks are utilizing these services. To date, we have approximately 205 individuals that have utilized the hygiene unit.
From how many vehicles?
One vehicle.
From the one?
One vehicle, yes. So right now, we're seeing on average about 20 usages a day, and the units Monday through Friday currently.
And are we successfully referring them to other sources, or we just give them a chance to change their clothes, take a shower?
No, absolutely. We are obviously doing that with the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority, who provides the outreach and engagement, and ensuring that these folks receive the necessary services that they need with the hygiene unit.
And with this allocation, then we hope to be up to 13 by when? I understand we only have a couple now, so what's the schedule?
So we're planning
for-
on rolling out the next trailer in November. So we're currently working on the scheduling for that. And as far as all 13 units, we're looking at March of next year, possibly to have all 13 units operational.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Blumenfield.
Yeah, to piggyback on something my colleague was asking about in terms of the deployment model, how is it going to work citywide? I mean, when you have districts like mine, they're far West Valley, are we ever going to see these hygiene trucks come by?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of our regional deployment was to have sites closer to areas that the care operations are taking place. So the facility, Donald T. Tillman, is going to be the site that is managing the CD3 operation. So we'll have hygiene units operating out of that facility.
And the funding, right now it's through GCP. Is there like HEAP or Measure H, or are there other dollars? Like GCP seems like a odd choice.
Claudia Aguilar with the CAO. We are exploring other funding possibilities, but to get the program started, because those funds were available in the GCP, we recommend to go with those funds. But with the new grants coming in, we're definitely putting this as one of the projects to potentially be funded.
Okay. And then they're going to be deployed, they're going to go to a specific location like on multiple times, a week or a month, or is it just kind of going along the care teams?
Right, so that's what we're developing now with the first unit is best practices, but developing a standardized schedule is something that we're looking towards to ensure more consistency, obviously, once we have 13 units operational.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, obviously, we're still working out a lot of kinks. So the program's only been up and running for less than a month now. But I think the care teams are a big step forward in a more, not only a more humane, but a more sustainable, effective approach to sanitation's role in addressing the homelessness crisis. So I think this is, and this will, when we get these units up and running, this will be an even further step forward. In terms of the deployment, you'll be looking at all this. We don't have to resolve this now because you're still kind of testing the best practices. But in the past, when sanitation would come in for a comprehensive cleanup, the homeless individuals who are being impacted are tending to be preoccupied with dealing with their things, moving out of the way, getting to, someplace. So the idea that they are going to take the time during the cleanup process to be able to go and use the sanitation facilities, that may be a hard stretch given the fact that they are having lots of other things to deal with right at that moment. So maybe having the sanitation vehicles there ahead of time, before the cleanup begins, that sort of thing might make a more effective utilization.
Right. Yeah, and that's partially why we are trying the model of the day before, for that very reason.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on this, members? Okay. If there's no objection, then what I'd like to do is suggest we adopt the recommendations in the sanitation CAO addendum report, and note and file the original transmittal from the Bureau. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that will bring up item number 8.
Item number 8 is the CAO and Bureau of Street Services reports relative to the establishment of permit fees for the sidewalk and park vending program. This item has also been referred to the Public Works Gain Reduction Committee, Health, Education, Neighborhoods, Parks, Arts, and River Committee, and the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee, and the Economic Development Committee.
Okay, so this is a matter that has been or will be considered by, or have the opportunity to be considered by multiple committees before it gets to council. What's before us in the Budget and Finance Committee, our concern is the fee study and the amount of any permit fees, not overall implementation of the program, not whether the program should or should not apply in particular neighborhoods, those sorts of things. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the permit fees. So with that, go right ahead.
Nicole Trujillo with the Office of the CAO. Good afternoon. Our office was instructed to report with a fee study that would represent full cost recovery for the sidewalk vending program. I worked with the Bureau of Street Services, the Department of Recreation and Park, and Economic and Workforce Development Department staff to develop the operating costs for the program. The proposed fee includes direct and indirect staff costs, outreach, education, professional support services, and enforcement. These costs were then divided by the number of vending permits estimated to be issued annually through the program, which is 16,000. The proposed fee is in compliance with Proposition 26. The proposed permits would be valid for 1 year from the date of issuance, and vendors would be required to renew permits and pay the permit fee on an annual basis. After 6 months following the implementation of the sidewalk and park vending permit program, this office would conduct a review and reconciliation of this fee. We're available to answer any questions.
All right. Members, any questions to start off with before we take public comment? Mr. Price? No. Mr. Blumenfield? No?
Questions, but I can do them after public comment.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and start with public comment. Speakers will have 1 minute to comment, and we will start with Alicia Mendoza, followed by Mr. Herman. Sit quietly, please, and stop disrupting this meeting. Sit quietly. Don't make noise. Don't draw attention to yourself. Just sit there quietly and listen. Our first speaker will be Alicia Mendoza, followed by Jose de los Santos, followed by Heriberto Arias, followed by Fernando Velusco.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alicia Mendoza. I'm a member of so-called Restaurant Association org, and I come here to express how I feel as owner business for a restaurant. Many of our members, as me, are running our business in red numbers because we have many competition, and unfair competition on the streets. As you see here in this picture, we had a full, complete restaurant operation on the gas station. They don't have any permit to conduct this kind of business. Yes, they do, because they heard the Proposition 946 was approved, and they obtained permit to anyone. They can just only sell food items, not everything. So these rules, they affect many of my business, and also another of my members too. We come here to regulate this situation because that is, it's in a portion in the future they sell this food, they cost more money at the city.
Thank you. Mr. De Los Santos?
Sí, buenas tardes.
And after Mr. De Los Santos will be Heriberto Arias, Fernando Velusco, and Javier Cabrera. Please come on up to the table.
Good afternoon. My name is Jose de los Santos. Una oración y luego va parando el internet.
Bueno, no me parece que sea posible que le puedan dar permiso al de la comida, porque no van a poder cumplir con las regulaciones como un restaurante.
I think that you are trying to impose some kind of fee for the street vending, but I don't know if we are going to be available to pay for it.
Porque a un restaurante le ponen muchas regulaciones. y tendrían que-
Momentito, senor. So when the clock should only be running when one or the other is speaking, not both, please.
Vuelvo.
Ok.
Por favor.
Porque cuando, a un restaurante le ponen muchas regulaciones.
Véalos ahí.
Ok. Un restaurante tiene muchas regulaciones y si ponen un agente afuera de nuestro negocio que no tiene las mismas regulaciones, nosotros no vamos a poder competir con ellos.
And also, restaurant owners have a lot of regulations and rules that they need to follow, and I think that the street vendors don't have the same amount of regulations, so this will take business away from the business owners or restaurant owners. That's it?
Because the clock was running, if you'd like to take a couple more sentences.
Ok. Otra cosa, que ellos llegan con los galones de amonia en las banquetas, los tiran y todo eso lo echan a la calle. ¿Cómo le van a hacer para regular la grasa y todo eso?
¿Quién tira?
Ellos,
¿Quiénes
cuando
son
ponen
ellos?
los vendedores
Oh, okay.
ambulantes, tiran grasa en la banqueta. Y para
Okay,
limpiar.
so just as an example, the street vendors, whatever the oil they use for cooking, they throw all of that away on the street. And who's going to regulate that? We cannot do that as restaurant owners.
Thank you, sir.
Gracias, señor.
So we're only going to run it when the speaker is speaking, not when it's being translated. Okay, our next speaker is Heriberto Arias, followed by Fernando Velusco, followed by Javier Cabrera. Good afternoon, sir.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Javier Cabrera y
Good afternoon, my name is Javier Cabrera.
entonces queríamos poner este caso de lo que las vendimias en la calle y
I
entonces
just wanted to show you this picture. This illustrates what's going on the
estamos
street.
viendo lo que pasa que están bloqueando en las calles para el handicap.
And they're also blocking the street for handicapped individuals.
Y la otra es de que están cobrando, digamos, a nosotros nos cobran $1,300 para el ¿cómo se llama? Permiso de handicaparme. Y entonces, para aquí, para la calle, quieren cobrar $500 y no se me hace justo.
$1,300 for the permit, and in the meantime, they will only be mandated to pay $500. I don't think that's fair.
Y si miran esto, pues bloquean todo para el handicap en la calle. No tenemos paso para pasar. La gente que camina no hay espacio para el handicap.
As you can see, there is no space to walk on the street, especially for people who are disabled.
Entonces, para que pongan más atención todos los concejales. Y
So-
eso es todo. Gracias.
Please take this into account. Thank you, council members.
Gracias. Okay, our next speaker is Fernando Velusco, followed by Javier Cabrera, followed by Martel Contreras. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yo solamente quiero decirles que también las ventas, debido a esto, han bajado mucho nuestros restaurantes.
I just wanted to tell you that in my restaurant, I have had some losses because of the street vending.
Hemos tenido que despedir a uno o varios empleados porque las ventas están por los suelos. Entonces, mi pensar es de que bajan nuestras ventas, la misma ciudad es la que está perdiendo porque de nuestros taxis están los pagos de la ciudad.
We have to hire some of our employees because we could not keep up because the income is not the same. So I think this is something that is not good for the city either.
Entonces, los taxes están...
Please don't shout out from the audience.
Okay.
It's this gentleman's opportunity to speak.
Okay, también si a ellos les ponen una tarifa, un fee, a nosotros también tendrían que, si ellos buscan bajar su tarifa, nosotros también nos tendrían que bajar la tarifa, me imagino.
So if they're asking for you to lower the rate that they have to pay, then you should also consider lowering our rate.
Y es todo, gracias.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Gracias. Okay, our next speaker is Javier Cabrera, followed by Martel Contreras, followed by Maria Torres.
¿No necesita interpretación?
No, mi nombre es Heriberto, no es Javier. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Heriberto. Estamos
Good
aquí
evening, my name is Heriberto.
por lo mismo,
I'm here for the same reason.
que no se nos parece justo que que estemos pagando más que los demás cuando estamos aportando, creo, los mismos taxes, todos los ciudadanos tenemos que pagar lo
I
mismo.
don't think it's fair that we are being charged we are all paying taxes.
Que las ventas están bajando, tenemos que despedir empleados,
The business is not the same as before. We have less businesses now. We have to let go some of the employees.
y nos está costando cubrir nuestros biles personales.
It's now it's a challenge to pay our bills.
Solamente lo que pedimos es igualdad. Es todo. Muchas
We're
gracias.
asking you for equality. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, sir, what was your name? Su nombre?
Heriberto Arias.
Heriberto Arias.
Okay. Thank you. So, thank you. Our next speaker, and if you've spoken, you can take your seats. Thank you. So our next speaker will be Javier Cabrera, followed by Martel Contreras, followed by Maria Torres. Just come on up. If I've called your name, come on up to the table. Followed by Violeta Escamilla, followed by Jose Escamilla. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Go right ahead.
My name's Maria, the last name is Torres. Our association is not against, really, it's not against the vendors. We just want you guys to regulate the way you guys regulate restaurant businesses. As my colleagues have said, there are vendors who are selling tacos or any type of food, but you have propane tanks in a gasoline station. Now I ask, because I've been sitting here for hours listening to you guys saying, how much money do you guys have for a lawsuit later on because something will happen? This is really, it's not against these people, hopefully in the back of us, understand it has nothing to do with them. Where's the budget going to come from? Is it going to come out of my tax dollar and your tax dollar to pay for less than 79 cents a day? I'm pretty sure these people can cough up $500 a year. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call a few more names. If I've called your names, just come on up to the table. Javier Cabrera, Martel Contreras, Violeta Escamilla, Jose Escamilla, Jesse Vasquez, and Reina Zepeda. Good afternoon.
Mi nombre es José Escamilla.
Hi, my name is Jose Escamilla.
Los saludo respetuosamente.
Before you, respectfully, before you, council members,
Estoy aquí porque tengo ciertas inconformidades.
I'm not here because I'm not happy about a few things.
Mi familia y yo tenemos 36 años con un negocio de restaurante
My family and I have had a business for 36 years,
y estamos luchando por mantenerlo funcionando,
and we would like to keep this restaurant in operations,
pero últimamente ya está siendo imposible
but lately it seems impossible.
por la venta de comida ambulante.
We have a lot of street vendors.
El problema no es que vendan, sino la desigualdad que existe en cuanto a las regulaciones de ellos con nosotros.
The problem is that they are out there selling food. The problem is that I think that there is not an equality in the regulations that are being imposed.
Quiero poner un ejemplo nada más por el tiempo. Hace 2 semanas nos visitó el Departamento de Health Department.
For instance, 2 weeks ago, we had a visit from the health department.
Llegó cuando recién abríamos.
We had just opened the restaurant that day.
En la noche pusimos el chile para hacer las salsas en el día.
We had the chile to make the salsa for the next day.
Entonces llegó y vio que la temperatura no estaba adecuada.
And they said that the temperature was not adequate.
Porque entonces nos hizo tirar todo eso.
So we had to throw away all of that.
Y está bien eso, pero lo que no me parece justo que a los de la calle no les exigen nada.
And that's fine. I agree with that. But what happens to the street vendors? Who is regulating the food that they sell?
Lo último, yo he estado ahí y la salsa hasta está haciendo burbujas.
I have been there when they are making the salsa and when the salsa is bubbling, and no one's saying anything about that.
Gracias.
My name is Violeta. I just want to let you know that we had 2 restaurants. We lost already one because no people could come to the restaurant. Now, legally and by the law, we have been working for almost 40 years with this too. Now, after that, what I wanted to say is that I have over here our health permit. We pay $1,309. And if you lower a price for them, it's very justice that we are seniors too. I dye my hair, he dyes his hair. We look younger, but we are older. We have been working a lot our whole life. Now, what kind of permit did you give that allows to sell food in the streets full of germs and bacteria? When a man is serving and goes and pee and come back and keeps giving the food, now who's going to be responsible?
Thank you.
If when something happened in the city,
Thank
you of them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Gracias.
Okay. We have a lot of people who'd like to comment, so I'd appreciate it if we don't, indicate support or opposition to what the speakers have said. Sir.
Thanks, sir. My name is Jesse Vasquez from SoCal Restaurant Association. My question is, last week I was here and council proposed 17 new hires for inspectors for the city, for the vending program. For a 6,500-mile square area, I just don't think it's enough. If we triple that number of inspectors, maybe. On another issue, we just beat New York and Chicago for the biggest rodent problem in our city. Take that in consideration before you give these vendors their permits. That's going to be just pennies to the day. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call some more names, so just come on up if I've called your name. Javier Cabrera, Martel Contreras, Reina Zepeda, Ligia Baires, Lilia Mendez, Rene Garcia. Come on up. Good afternoon. Go right ahead.
Ok, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Lilia Méndez.
Good afternoon, my name is Lydia Mendez.
Y estoy aquí para decir lo que no me gusta de esta situación.
I'm here to let you know what I'm not very happy about the situation.
Los vendedores de comida ambulante son un peligro para la vialidad y para los peatones.
The street vendors are a risk for people who walk the streets, pedestrians.
Aquí puedo mostrar una foto.
Here's a picture.
Cómo obstruyen a los peatones y sobre todo a las personas
They obstruct the streets
y a las personas discapacitadas.
to the people that walk the streets, and some of them are disabled.
A nosotros como dueños de restaurante que pagamos impuesto de propiedad, de estacionamiento, no podemos poner un anuncio fuera de nuestro restaurante.
As restaurant owners, that we pay taxes, and we cannot put any signs outside of the building.
Porque lo que nos cuesta es un ticket de $500.
Otherwise, we'll get a ticket for $500.
Sí, ¿y cómo es posible que puedan dar un permiso abajo de lo que nosotros pagamos? $1,300 por un permiso de Health Department.
We pay $1,300 to the Health Department, and they will only be paying $500. How is that possible? That's not fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
I'm here for the same situation. My name is Juan René Garcia.
Estoy aquí para la misma situación.
I'm owner of the restaurant also, and
Yo también tengo un restaurante.
we haven't traveled for the past 2 years. My sales have been going down and down and down, and we cannot keep up with this situation. We hope you guys consider this. Thank you.
Sir, I'm sorry, what was your first name?
Juan René Garcia. You
Thank
have
you.
me there only for René Garcia.
I see. Thank you. All right. You can go ahead and take your seats. I'll call some more names. Rafael Guerrero, Nadia Abrica, Enrique Alvarado, Isaac Escobar.
Isaac Escobar.
Good afternoon.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Reina Cepeda. Yo
Good afternoon, my name is Reina
soy dueña
Cepeda.
de restaurante desde hace 10 años y en
I'm a
los
restaurant
últimos
owner
años,
for the last 10 years.
las ventas han bajado. Yo estoy aquí porque ellos no están cumpliendo con las regulaciones y las reglas que nosotros tenemos que cumplir como dueños de
The
restaurantes.
sales have been going down
Esposo
since
tuvo que agarrar
the sales have been going down, and since we had street vendors on the street,
Mi esposo tuvo que agarrar otro trabajo para poder salir adelante con nuestros gastos.
my husband had to get a second job so we could pay our bills.
Ellos no pagan renta, no pagan taxes.
They don't pay
pagan
rent, they don't pay
aseguranzas.
taxes, insurance.
Nosotros tenemos que pagar todo y batallar con todas las inspecciones de salubridad, que cualquier rayita que tiene la pared quieren que la renovemos.
We have to pay many expenses, and we have the inspectors that come and inspect everything, every little thing, every little mark on the wall, they we are fined.
Que si nuestras comidas no están a la temperatura,
They come and measure the temperature in the kitchen.
que si no hay papel en los baños.
They check that we have toilet paper in the bathrooms.
Ellos ni siquiera tienen baños a donde ir.
Street vendors don't even have a restroom.
Esto es un problema de salubridad para toda la población, no nada
This is
más
a
para
health
los dueños de
issue
restaurantes.
for all the community, not only for restaurant owners.
Todas las personas que están comiendo esa comida en la calle están en riesgo.
Everyone who buys food at these places where the street vendors are, they are at risk.
Se puede convertir en una epidemia para todos. Por favor, ayúdennos con eso.
This could become an epidemic. Please help us.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Ligia Baires, soy miembro de Soccer Restaurant Association.
My name is Ligia Valles. I'm a member of Southern California.
Soccer Restaurant Association.
Oh, Restaurant Association, sorry.
Estoy aquí para pedir por unas leyes justas
I am here
para todos.
because I want to have equal law for everyone.
Ya que cuando la salubridad que nosotros pagamos cada año, como ustedes lo saben,
We're talking about health, and you know that we have to pay every year.
lo pagamos en base a la cantidad de sillas que nosotros tenemos en cada restaurante.
And we pay based on the capacity of the restaurant.
Si nosotros violamos una regla, los puntajes nos empiezan a disminuir.
If we violate one single rule, our restaurant goes down 1 point.
Lo que significa que nuestra letra A puede ser C y nos los pueden cerrar.
That means that we could get a B or a C instead of an A, and we may even be closed down.
Entonces, estamos viendo que las violaciones que se están haciendo en las calles están incumpliendo con todos los requisitos que Salubridad está exigiendo.
Street vendors are not complying with all the regulations that they should.
Y nosotros, aparte de pagar los biles de salud pública, pagamos también de sanitación.
We have to pay sanitation and other fees.
Más nuestros taxes que se pagan como la ley lo está requiriendo.
We also pay taxes according to the law.
Solamente les exijo leyes justas y evitar una epidemia nada más.
I just want to ask you to, for a fair and just law.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is Javier Cabrera here? I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Okay. And Martel Contreras? Rafael Guerrero?
That's me.
Okay. Nadia Abrica?
Here, Mr.
And Enrique Alvarado? Okay. Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Council members, as you all know, by driving anywhere in the city of LA, The street vendors are literally everywhere by the thousands. That is causing a big problem for us business owners, small restaurants. We are in trouble and we need your help. We have 1,001 regulations and fees that we have to pay. None of those apply to street vendors. It is completely unfair. Or personal or family business, we have 3 vendors right in front of us, right outside our door. That is causing, and that's the situation for most of us right here. We are an organization that is growing. In just 3 weeks, we went from 5 restaurants to 150. That involves a lot of people and a lot of businesses. You probably weren't aware of us. You probably are now, and we are growing. Something needs to be done. We do not support lowering the fee from 500 to 291. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, your name is Mr. Guerrero?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
He's asking if I can translate for him.
Oh, we have our translator. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Enrique Alvarado. Yo soy dueño
Good afternoon, my name is Enrique Alvarado.
de una troca de comida.
I have a food truck.
Algunos meses atrás llegó un inspector de salubridad a mi negocio
I had an inspector that came by a few months ago,
y checó los refrigeradores y uno de ellos marcaba 43 grados.
and one of the refrigerators was 43 degrees.
Esperó por 20 minutos
He was
Y
there, he
el-
waited for 20 minutes,
y el refrigerador no bajó más la temperatura.
and the fridge wouldn't go down.
Me hizo cerrar mi negocio.
So he asked me to close down my business.
Hoy día veo la importancia de que nos ayuden a poner una ley justa para todos los que estamos aquí, sobre todo las personas que están vendiendo comida en la calle.
So I'm asking you to have a just and fair law for everyone, every person who's a street vendor.
Ya que todos hemos pasado alguna vez por un puesto en la calle, hay tortilla en el piso, queso afuera, carnes, lugares muy insalubres y es mucho riesgo para toda la sociedad.
I have seen food on the street, cheese, meat, you name it. So this is also a risk for the community,
Verduras, etcétera. Entonces,
even vegetables.
necesitamos ser conscientes de que hoy no estamos aquí para estar en contra de alguien, simplemente para ser justos.
I want you to know that I'm not against anyone. I just want to be something that is fair for everyone.
Gracias.
Thank you.
And sorry, your name again, sir?
¿Su nombre?
Enrique Alvarado.
Enrique Alvarado.
Gracias. Okay, I'm going to call some more names. Martel Contreras. Come on up, sir. Nadia Brica.
Here, sir, again.
Isaac Escobar. And Amada Carrillo. All right. Is Abrica?
There we go. Good afternoon, and thank you for your service, council members. We are here representing SoCal Restaurant Association that is looking for the well-being of restaurant owners and also for our communities. That's why today we are here to ask you to listen to our concerns and look for the best for all. We are not against food street vendors. We are here to ask you to regulate them. No estamos en contra de la venta ambulante de comida. It's becoming a health and safety issue that is getting out of control. Someone can get sick. You cannot lower the price of the permit. Otherwise, business owners, we are going to disappear. We cannot compete with these prices. Our city fees are too high, and you know it. 500 divided in 365 days, it's $1.40 per day. Yes, they can pay that. We are asking you to take the right decision. Don't forget that business owners, we pay taxes.
Thank you.
And our community get all the city services, including your services, to our taxes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Your time's expired.
Sir,
Thank you. Your time is expired.
thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. As an organization, we are canvassing to
Thank you. I'm
get
sorry.
more
Your time is
business.
expired. You'll need to
My
have a...
time has expired. Thank you so much. I just want to say that
Thank you.
today's
I'm
you
sorry.
guys
Your
vote.
time is expired. You need to take a seat.
Thank you,
Take a
sir.
seat.
I will.
Good afternoon, sir.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Martel Contreras. Martel Contreras.
Good afternoon. My name is Martel Contreras.
Como pueden ver, yo soy una persona deshabilitada también.
As you can see, I am disabled.
A veces que voy caminando por la calle está todo cerrado y no puedo pasar
Sometimes when I'm on the street, I can't even walk because the streets are all crowded
por gente que está vendiendo comida en la calle.
because of the street vendors are there.
So, quiero pedirles también que ellos sean justos, que no les bajen el precio de lo que están los permisos, porque nosotros pagamos mucho, muy caros.
I want you to be fair, please. They are asking for a lower fee for the permit, and we pay a lot more. They're actually pretty expensive.
Eso es todo. Muchas gracias.
That's all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Isaac Escobar.
Good afternoon. My name is Isaac Escobar.
En esta ocasión estamos aquí para solicitar a ustedes un apoyo para conseguir un programa que se alinee con nuestras necesidades de
I am
trabajo,
here to ask you to create a program aligned with our needs,
que se adapte a nuestras necesidades de trabajo y salubridad.
our needs, that is, as workers and the community in general.
Es todo.
That's all.
Gracias. Okay, if you could go ahead and take a seat.
Si puede sentarse, por favor.
I'm going to call some more names. Amada Carrillo,
Amada Carrillo.
Eugenia Avila, Francisco Martinez, and Martín Rizzo. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes, señores consejeros. Mi nombre es Amada Carrillo y vengo
Good,
representando.
good afternoon, members, council members. My name is Amada Carrillo.
Vengo representando a las personas de la tercera edad
I am here on behalf of senior citizens
para pedirles que nos pongan un precio razonable, ya que 291 es mucho para nosotros.
291 is a lot of money for us, so I want you to set a reasonable rate.
Porque algunas veces venden menos y yo vendo muy poco.
We don't make the same every day. Sometimes we have less than we expect every day.
Vendemos cosas usadas.
We sell second-hand items.
También queríamos pedirle que de un fondo del presupuesto, para ayudar a nosotros, a las personas de la tercera edad, con una tarifa para los impuestos.
So maybe you have a program where people that are senior citizens have to pay a lower rate.
Por mi parte personal, tengo que ayudar y cuidar a mi madre, ya que hace poco mi hermano era el que nos cuidaba y nos ayudaba y murió. Muchas gracias.
My brother passed away and he used to take care of my mother. Now I am the only one who's taking care of her. So this is my situation now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes, señores concejales.
Good afternoon, council members.
Mi nombre es Martín Rizzo.
My name is Martín Rizzo.
Soy vendedor de la Exposition Park.
I am a street vendor on Exposition Park.
Vendo ice cream y paletas por 9 años.
I have been selling ice cream and lollipops, not lollipops, for
9 años, 9 years.
30 años?
9 años.
I'm sorry, 9 years.
Quiero pedirles por favor que asienten el corazón para que den una cuota favorable para las personas mayores de edad.
Please allow us to pay a lower rate. I am also speaking on behalf of senior citizens.
Ya que no es fácil conseguir trabajo en otros lados, ya no nos dan por
It's
nuestra
not easy to get a job somewhere else because we are older.
Ya viene el tiempo de lluvia y es muy difícil vender.
So the rainy days are coming, and it's really hard to be selling on the street when it's raining.
Varios de nosotros estamos enfermos, ya
Some
no
of us
podemos
are
trabajar.
ill. We can't no longer work anywhere else.
Gracias, señores.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Gracias.
And before I call some more names, I know some of you are having trouble with your simultaneous translation. Can you translate for me, please?
Algunos de ustedes están teniendo problemas con el equipo de traducción. El aparato transmisor dejó de funcionar. Are we getting...
So-
Ahorita nos van a traer otro. Así que aguanten un ratito y disculpen. ¿Ok?
So there's equipment coming. There's
I said that.
replacement coming. Okay. Okay, I'm going to call a few more names. Well, no, let's go ahead and finish who we have.
Do you mind if I say it in Spanish? Voy a llamar más nombres. Y si llaman su nombre, se pasan a sentar. Sorry.
Let's go ahead and hear from
¿Puedo quedarme o
these
hasta
speakers.
que me llamen el nombre?
Okay.
¿Puedo quedarme o
Sí,
hasta que me llamen el nombre?
Oh, ¿ya lo llamó?
No.
Okay. You have not called his name.
Oh, un momentito, señor.
Un momentito.
Okay.
Buenas tardes, señores concejales. Mi nombre es Eugenia Ávila. Soy
Good
la
afternoon,
única
council
en mi
members.
hogar
My name is
que trabaja.
Eugenia Ávila.
Soy la única en mi hogar que trabajo.
I am the head of a household, and I'm the only one who has a job.
Mi esposo le dio un derrame cerebral. Me preocupa mucho que no están incluyendo un costo para bajos recursos, para vendedores como yo.
My husband is ill, and I am concerned because there is not a special program for senior citizens.
Les pido a ustedes que nos apoyen a reducir un costo a la mitad.
Please consider a different rate for senior citizens, maybe half of what you are asking for.
Se los agradezco mucho.
I would really appreciate it.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias. Okay, I'm going to call some more names. Francisco Martinez, Carmen Guandique, Aureliano Santiago, and Cristina Briones, please. Come on up.
Carmen. ¿Ya le llamaron? Sí, ya me llamaron.
Good afternoon.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Carmen Guandique.
Good afternoon. My name is Carmen Guandi.
Soy una persona de la tercera edad.
I'm a senior citizen.
Soy solita en este país.
I live alone in this country.
Por mi edad, pues ya no me dan trabajo las personas.
I can no longer work because I'm older.
Mi motivación fue a vender. Yo vendo en la calle.
So I'm sorry.
Vendo ropa de segunda.
So I had no other option but to go on the streets and sell items. I have second-hand items that I sell.
Cositas que me regalan mis amigas.
Other things, a few things that my friends give to me.
Pues yo quisiera que pongan un precio justo, razonable acerca del permiso allí, porque yo siento que se me hace caro.
I know that we need to have a permit, but maybe you can lower the permit for senior citizens. It's very expensive for me.
No se vende mucho por veces y yo tengo que sacar para mi comidita, para mi medicina, y soy una persona que no tengo carro, ando en bus, me cuesta.
I don't make the same amount of money sometimes every day. Sometimes I make very little. I don't even have a car. I carry all my stuff by bus. I use public transportation. It's really hard.
Y también pues soy una persona que estoy mal de mi salud, mis rodillas mucho me duelen, mi
I have
espalda.
health issues with my knees. I have back pain.
Y entonces pues yo les pediría ese favor, que fueran conscientes, que le bajaran el precio a los permisos. ahí.
Please consider lowering the rate for senior citizens. Oh, thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias. Okay.
Muy buenas
wait,
tardes.
un momentito. I'm going to call a few more names.
Okay.
Francisco are you Francisco Martinez?
No, Aureliano Santiago.
Okay. So Francisco Martinez, Cristina Briones, Natalia Garcia, and Rudy Espinosa. Come on up and grab a seat if there's one available. Mr. Santiago.
Ya.
Señor Santos.
Mi nombre es Aureliano Santiago. Muy buenas tardes, señores.
Gracias por permitirnos.
My name is Aureliano Santiago. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for having me here.
Estamos muy agradecidos con esta organización que yo pertenezco, que es ILA.
I'm very thankful to belong to ILAC.
Es la única organización que nos ha estado ayudando hasta ahorita
This is the only organization that has been supporting us.
con nuestras aplicaciones para pagar el próximo año nuestros taxes.
They are helping us with the applications for next year so we can pay taxes.
Pero realmente necesitamos un programa a donde nos eduque el Health Department para saber realmente las necesidades que necesitamos como vendedor ambulante.
But what we actually need is that the health department, maybe they can provide some sort of a workshop to educate all of us that are street vendors on our rights and the things that we need to comply with.
Porque realmente los permisos que nos están ofreciendo es realmente muy caro. De ahí hay que pagar el Health Department, los carros que tenemos que tener adecuadamente para ser un vendedor en la calle.
The permit is very expensive. We need to pay the health department, and we need to bring the vehicles that we need to carry our goods.
Está en sus manos de ustedes de poderlos ayudar, brindarnos
It's in your
esta
hands.
oportunidad.
Please, you have the opportunity to help us.
Somos personas mayores de edad que en ningún lado nos pueden dar otra oportunidad.
We are senior citizens. We will not be hired anywhere else.
Entonces necesitamos esa oportunidad que nos lo brindan ustedes. Gracias, muy buenas tardes.
We need your help. Thank you.
Gracias. Okay, I'd like to call some more names, please. Francisco Martinez, Cristina Briones, Natalia Garcia, Rudy Espinosa, Lilia Garcia, and Charlie Benitez. Come on up and grab a seat. If I called your name, come on up and take a seat if one's available.
Sí. Buenas tardes, señores concejales.
Good afternoon, council members.
Mi nombre es Lilia García.
My name is Lilia Garcia.
Y estamos aquí, muchos compañeros de dueños de negocios y yo específicamente que llegué a tener 5 restaurantes y tuve que venderlos por la situación de los vendedores ambulantes.
I am here as many other people who have had businesses. I used to have 5 businesses and I had to sell them because I was affected by the street vendors.
Ok, lo que yo estuve escuchando hace unos momentos no son los vendedores que nosotros nos estamos quejando. Lo que nosotros estamos pidiendo y diciendo que nos están poniendo restaurantes ambulantes dentro de nuestros negocios ya.
We're not against them. We're not against them. What I'm saying here is that the restaurant owners, we have a location, and they are street vendors that are right in front of our places.
Y realmente sabemos que ni siquiera es la gente pobre y humilde, sino es gente que tiene dinero y está queriendo hacer más dinero, invasión de impuestos. Cosa que nosotros estamos pagando.
I'm not saying, I think that most of the people that are street vendors are people who have more money and they just want to make money and they to evade paying taxes. I'm not against people who are low income and want to make some money.
Del payroll, workers' comp, renta, todos los biles que puede tener un negocio. No hablamos, perdón.
Es que me lo confundió con el inglés. Okay, we have to pay payroll, workers' comp, and other things that street vendors don't have to pay.
No estamos hablando de personas que estamos escuchando aquí. Esas personas de las que nosotros estamos hablando son otras personas.
I think that the people I'm referring to, or the street vendors I'm referring to, they are not the ones that are in this room. There are other people that I am not, they are there just to make more money.
Thank you.
Okay. Ellos son personas aparentemente, como se miran, humildes.
Your time's expired. Gracias.
Ya se le acabó su tiempo. Disculpe.
Okay.
Sí.
Can you keep your voices down, please? Folks, we're trying to listen to everybody.
Silencio,
You
por
have
favor. Estamos tratando de que todos escuchar.
to- Mr. Spindler, I'd like to ask you to keep your voice down, please. You're distracting the members from listening to the public.
Buenas tardes,
Buenas
señores
tardes.
concejales.
Good afternoon, council members. ¿Su nombre?
Natalia García.
My name is Natalia Garcia.
Vengo representando a todas las personas de la tercera edad
I'm here on behalf of senior citizens.
que tengan compasión de nosotros.
Please be
porque,
compassionate.
tenemos necesidad de salir a las calles a vender porque no tenemos otra opción más que para solventar los gastos.
We
del
have
día.
no other option but to go out on the street and sell items because we have not any other way of income.
Mi petición es que la tarifa que ustedes tienen no lo podemos pagar porque vendemos poquito.
The rate that you're asking
y-
is too high because sometimes we say very, very little items. We don't have a large income.
Muchos estamos enfermos y otros en diálisis y así tenemos
Some
que
of us
salir a
are
vender.
ill, some people are on dialysis, and yet they go out on the street and sell items.
Mi petición es que nos pongan una tarifa accesible que nosotros podamos pagar con gusto.
Please consider an affordable rate for senior citizens. Thank you.
Esa es mi petición. Gracias por oírme. Que te queden con Dios, que todo lo sabe y todo lo puede.
Gracias.
Thank you for having me today, for allowing me to express my opinion, and God bless you.
Okay, I'm sorry, before you begin, I'm going to call up a few more names, please. Again, is Francisco Martinez here? Okay. Cristina Briones? Rudy Espinosa?
I'm speaking on behalf of Rudy Espinosa. Is that
Well, okay, but you're going to need to put your own information in too, if that's okay.
I did already.
Okay. Well, we don't speak for others, so you'll have one opportunity
Oh,
to
do you want me-
speak on your own.
He's not
Yeah.
here.
Okay. Thank you. Charlie Benitez, Margarita Martinez, and Eric Previn. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Eric Previn already spoke on this. Okay. I know, but you already spoke on your multi-items. You already spoke on your multiple items. Go ahead. Have a seat, please. Yes, ma'am.
Buenas tardes, señores concejales. Mi nombre es Cristina Briones. Buenas tardes, señores concejales. Mi nombre es Cristina Briones. Soy una vendedora del Sur Centro. Soy una vendedora con impedimento físico y necesito trabajar para poder pagar mis gastos de vida. No quiero ser una carga económica para el gobierno ni para mi familia. Quiero valerme por mí misma. Les pido a ustedes que reduzcan, por favor, el costo del permiso para vendedores con diferentes problemas físicos y de edad avanzada. Es todo lo que les pido. Gracias.
She also invited, so I thought it would be more efficient to read it. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Cristina Briones. I am a street vendor in the area of South Central. I am disabled and I need to work in order to pay expend my bills. I don't want to depend on the government for my well-being, and my family also needs, I also need to put food on the table for my family. Esto no? Okay. I would like to be able to work and to be independent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, she also mentioned to reduce the rate for senior citizens and people with disabilities.
Okay, thank you. And, sir, what's your name?
Charlie Benitez.
Benitez, okay. So I'm going to call a few more names then so people can come on up. Francisco Martinez, Margarita Martinez, Jose Luis Gonzalez, Antonio Garcia, Alvaro Espinosa. Good afternoon.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Charlie Benitez. Charlie Benitez.
Good afternoon, my name is Charlie Benitez.
Somos restauranteros y fuera de nuestros negocios se ponen la gente a vender comida de lo que nosotros ya vendemos.
And I am a restaurant owner, and I have street vendors right in front of my restaurant.
Volvemos a repetir lo mismo que todos mis compañeros, pagamos impuestos, pagamos
Again.
muchos biles, cosa que los vendedores de afuera no pagan nada de
Like
impuestos.
other people said before me, we have to pay a lot of expenses that the street vendors don't have to pay.
Ya muchos compañeros de nosotros están cerrando negocios, los shopping, ¿para qué tenemos restaurantes y podemos vender igual que ellos en la calle?
I know a lot of people who have closed down their businesses, and maybe we'll just go out and be street vendors. They seems to be doing better.
Si ellos no pagan impuestos, nosotros podemos hacer igual.
They don't have to pay taxes, so we can do that as well.
Algo tienen que hacer, ¿no?, sobre eso.
You have
Gracias.
to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jose Luis Gonzalez. I am an American taxpayer and a restaurant owner. I am here because I believe these permits are totally being misused. You give them a permit for selling, like a lady said, clothes on the street, popsicles, ice cream, and then these guys go and put taco stands or fast food restaurants out on the street, hot food. And these people, a lot of these people are being sent by third party persons that send them here, get the permit, and then they go out and put a taco stand on the street. I heard there's people that own about 40 taco stands out on the street. Here I am paying over $20,000 a month in taxes, and these people don't pay a nickel out there. Is this fair?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Folks, please, we're trying to listen.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es José García. Estoy aquí también por los restaurantes.
Hi, my name is Jose Garcia, and I'm a restaurant owner.
Estoy aquí porque ahora nuestros restaurantes ya tienen una competencia en la puerta. Hay gente que va y saca le dan sus permisos y van, se nos ponen a 25, 50 pies de nuestros restaurantes y con 8, 10 empleados y vendiendo todo ahí enfrente de nosotros.
So we have a problem because right in front of our restaurants, we have street vendors that are selling everything. And also that's not good for us because they're competing basically for the business.
Ya que ellos no pagan renta,
They don't have to pay rent.
no pagan taxis,
Taxes.
no pagan licencias.
They don't have to
nada,
pay for
hasta-
licenses.
Entonces ellos pueden contratar, tienen 8 o 10 empleados, contratar más gente, dar más barato que nosotros.
They can hire 10, 11 employees, and that's killing us.
Eso es todo.
That's all I have to say today.
Okay, thank you. And it's Jose Antonio Garcia?
José Antonio García.
Okay.
Jose Antonio Garcia.
Gracias, señor. Okay, Francisco Martinez, last call? No? Okay. Margarita Martinez? Álvaro Espinosa? Maria Vasquez? And Caridad Vasquez. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes.
Mi nombre es Margarita Martínez. Tengo un negocio que apenas tengo como un año con él.
My name is Margarita Martinez. I have had a business for about a year.
Mis ventas han bajado muchísimo.
My income has gone down dramatically.
Acerca de los vendedores ambulantes.
And this is due to the street vendors.
Que se ponen enfrente de los negocios de uno.
They're right in front of the businesses.
Y pues dan más barato y la gente pues se va, lógico que se va a lo más barato.
They also have cheaper prices, so obviously people will go to the cheaper prices.
Y pues uno no puede estar compitiendo con ellos porque uno paga biles, rentas, taxis, de todo cobran taxis y todo tiene uno
We
que
can't
pagar
compete
todo.
with them. They don't have to pay taxes, we do, and we have other bills as well that they don't have to pay. It's not a fair competition.
Eso es todo, gracias.
Gracias.
That's it, thanks.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Vázquez.
Good afternoon, my name is María Vázquez. Pues yo nomás vengo aquí para decirles que yo estoy de acuerdo que todos necesitamos oportunidades. I am here to let you know that, or to tell you that we all need opportunities. Pero que las leyes sean justas para todos. But we need to have fair and just laws for everyone. Yo tengo un restaurante, so la gente se pone a un lado a vender. I have a restaurant, some people are there right next to my restaurant. Que tengan cierto límite para que ellos puedan vender, porque ellos también pueden, pero teniendo las mismas leyes que uno mismo. I think there should be like a limit, a setback, or a place where they could have their businesses. They also need to make a living. Que paguen taxes igual que uno. They should also pay taxes like we do. Porque todos tenemos necesidad de trabajar. We all need to work. Y es todo. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Mi nombre es Álvaro Espinosa.
My name is Álvaro Espinosa.
Yo soy de un restaurante, pero últimamente mis ventas están por el suelo.
I have a restaurant, but my business has gone down dramatically.
Tuve que despedir 3 empleados.
I had to fire 3 employees.
Porque en el Chapín se han puesto 2 vendedores.
Because we have 2 street vendors.
Como unos 20 pies de ahí.
About 20 feet from my restaurant.
Le dije a la que va a inspeccionar.
I told the inspector.
De Health Department y dice que ellos no pueden hacer nada y uno tantos permisos que paga.
I told the inspector from the health department and he said there's nothing I can do. And we pay so much to have a restaurant.
Yo necesito que la ciudad haga algo para que eso no los perjudique a lo que ya estamos ahí pagando tanto impuesto.
The city needs to do something. We already pay a lot of money on insurance and other fees.
Ellos ahí dejan basura, platos. Ellos no les importa ya
There's also another issue. They leave trash and plates and you name it.
Y a nosotros los restauranteros, a los inspectores los traen en friega. Que cualquier cosita, una mosca o algo, ya que nos andan quitando la letra y multa.
And as a restaurant owners, the inspectors are always there and anything. If they see a fly on the wall, then we have to get in trouble.
Yo pienso que sea la igualdad para todos. Ellos van a estar vendiendo, pero que tengan sus ¿cómo se llama? Para lavarse las manos y todo, pero así no se puede.
I'm not against street vendors, but also they need to deal with other issues, health issues. I don't know where they wash their hands.
Y tiene que haber un cierta distancia, no ponerse a un lado de los restaurantes, por favor.
And there should be like a limit or a setback between the street vendors and the restaurants.
Eso es, gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Mi nombre es Caridad Vázquez.
My name is Caridad Vázquez.
Antes que nada, ya escucharon a todos mis compañeros.
You heard all my fellow members.
La necesidad
who have spoken before.
Que estamos pasando y que siempre hemos pasado.
We have also had different things that we have to deal with in the past.
Hay muchas historias de restaurantes a comparación de nosotros.
We have several restaurants.
Por eso se luchó durante estos años para que también nosotros seamos vistos y legalizados para vender legalmente.
We have been restaurants that have been working and that they have their permits. So this is what we're asking is, as street vendors, we are asking for a permit so we can also make a living.
Para poder llegar a esta legalización nos pusieron muchas trabas, muchas cosas para poder educarnos y lo estamos haciendo.
In order to get to this point, we had to jump a lot of hurdles.
Por eso, gracias por lo que nos están escuchando y analicen lo que somos vendedores, ambulantes y los que son restauranteros.
Please listen to what we have said today, and there is a difference in being a restaurant and a street vendor.
¿Cuál es la diferencia de un vendedor?
What is the difference of a street vendor?
A un restaurante.
As opposed to having a restaurant.
Porque tenemos oportunidad también nosotros.
We also need an opportunity to make a living.
Porque somos el 60% de mujeres, de personas adultas.
60% of street vendors are women, adult women.
Por eso venimos a decirles a ustedes que den un precio estable.
We are here to tell you that we need
and something affordable,
que podamos pagar.
something that we can pay.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias. Okay, I'm going to call some more names. Just come on up and grab a chair if I call your name. Julio Flores, Miguel Perez, Santa Huerta, and Mayra Hernandez, please.
Con todo respeto para ustedes, buenas tardes, señores concejales. Mi nombre es Julio Flores.
Good afternoon, council members. With all due respect, I'm here before you. My name is Julio Flores. Julio Flores.
Soy vendedor de la 46 y la May.
I'm a street vendor on 46th and Main.
Con todo respeto para todos los que han hablado de restaurantes,
With all due respect for all the people that are here on behalf of restaurant owners,
pero es una exageración lo que han dicho.
I think that what has been said, it was an exaggeration.
La semana pasada tuvimos una reunión con la policía
Last week we had a meeting with the police department
porque hay muchos rateros en nuestra zona y nos quitan hay muchos rateros en nuestra zona.
we have also have a problem with criminal activity in our area. There have been a lot of thefts.
Y nos quitan las cosas y nosotros por respeto no se las vamos a quitar de las manos que ya las tienen. Por eso es que tuvimos una reunión con la policía.
They take away our goods, and that's the reason why we had a meeting with the police department.
Y nosotros como comerciantes, vendedores de comida,
as street vendors,
llevamos una comida para que convivamos todos ahí.
We bring food so we can all work together.
Y los mismos policías nos dijeron que estaba muy sabrosa la comida.
Even the police officer ate our food and they said that it was delicious.
Y hasta se rieron doble vez. Dice, queremos seguir conviviendo con ustedes.
And they had seconds. And then they said, we want you to be here.
Por eso se me hace una exageración lo que dijeron los restaurantes y para ellos mis respetos.
So that's why I think that what has been said here, it's being blown out of proportion. And all my respect for restaurant owners as well. Have nothing against them.
Por otro lado, yo soy una persona de la tercera edad.
On the other hand, I'm a senior citizen.
Okay, gracias.
His time's up.
Yeah.
Se le acabó su tiempo.
Gracias. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes, señores concejales.
Good afternoon, council members.
Señores concejales, estoy preocupado por el costo de los permisos.
I am concerned about the cost of the permits that you're proposing. It's very high.
Queremos un permiso justo y razonable al alcance del vendedor.
We have something fair and reasonable, something affordable for us.
También queremos permiso especial para los vendedores de la tercera edad y vendedores de silla de rueda.
We also did special permits for street vendors, senior citizens, and disabled individuals who are street vendors.
Yo soy un vendedor de Exposition Park.
I'm a street vendor on Exposition Park.
Hace como 8 días tuve personas de otro estado a visitarme como turista.
About a week ago, I had some tourists from another country.
Para mí fue un gusto pasarlo a esos turistas de puesto en puesto de mis compañeros.
And they came and they tasted my food and they visited every station.
Y aprobaron cada trabajo de ellos y sé que llevaron un buen imagen.
And I know that it was a very pleasant experience.
Por eso les pido a ustedes que con los carritos, junto con los permisos, quisiéramos que para el 2020 estén nivelados, porque
we would like to see that all the carts are at the same level for the year 2020.
Porque Los Ángeles es multiétnico, multicultural.
Los Angeles is a melting pot. We have all sort of cultures and and different things that are good for tourism.
Y es una ciudad turística, así que queremos que los carros sean bien presentables porque somos ejemplo para otras ciudades, para otros países. Gracias, muy amable.
We have a lot of tourists, and I would like to see that the cars are nice and clean, so we can attract more tourists. Thank you.
Gracias. ¿Y su nombre?
Miguel Ángel Pérez.
Miguel Ángel Pérez.
Gracias, señor. Okay, I'm going to, well, go ahead.
Buenas tardes, señores concejales. Mi nombre es Santa Huerta.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is
Santa Huerta.
Santa Huerta.
Soy vendedora ambulante de la Fashion Center.
I'm a street vendor on Fashion Center.
Hoy día estoy aquí.
I am here today.
Preocupada por el precio que ustedes están dando.
Because I am concerned with the fee
y me gustaría
you're proposing.
A mí y a todos mis compañeros que el precio que ustedes estén dando sea razonable al alcance de lo que nosotros ahorita estamos ganando.
I would like to have an affordable fee according to our
En
income.
cuanto a los restaurantes, a mí muchas veces me ha tocado ir, sí es verdad, pero también ellos no colaboran con su limpieza porque yo he encontrado cucaracha en un sándwich que yo había pedido.
Sometimes, well, what they have said, some of the things are true, but I have also went to one of the restaurants and I found a roach in a sandwich
Yo estoy
from that
aquí,
restaurant.
Yo estoy aquí abogando por todos mis compañeros, señores, que tengan más flexibilidad con los precios para la gente de la tercera edad, porque también habemos gentes que estamos trabajando enfermos. Una de ellas soy yo.
I am here on behalf of all the community, the street vendors community, especially for people with disabilities and people who are ill. I personally have a work, and I have cancer, and I still work.
Yo no puedo trabajar en otro trabajo porque mis manos los tengo muy tensas.
I cannot get any other job because I have problems with my hands.
Que tengan ustedes más flexibilidad. Muchísimas gracias.
Please.
Buenas tardes.
Be more flexible.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I'm going to call some more names, please. Mayra Hernandez, Humberto Yauli, Faustino Martinez, and Rosa Miranda, please. Good afternoon. Go right ahead. Por favor.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Mayra Hernández, soy vendedora de Fashion Distrito.
Good afternoon, my name is Rosa Hernandez. I'm sorry, Mayra Hernandez, and I'm a street vendor on the Fashion District.
Estoy aquí para pedirles que hagan un programa de bajos recursos.
I am here to ask you to create a program for low-income individuals.
Porque nos hemos dado cuenta que hay muchas personas necesitadas que no tienen los mismos recursos.
Many people who are street vendors, they're not at the same level. Some of them have less resources than others.
No queremos que personas con dinero exploten a nuestros compañeros.
We don't want people who have more money to be exploiting our members.
Nos hemos dado cuenta que está ocurriendo esto.
And we realize that this is actually happening now.
Por eso les pido, señores concejales, su liderazgo.
I'm here before you, council member, to ask for your help and your leadership. Thank you.
Okay, gracias. I'm going to, before we go further, I just would like to say that it is now 20 to 5. We've heard from over 40 speakers, and we have heard in multiple hearings, in multiple committees. We've heard speakers on this matter. So I would just like to ask if what you have to say is repetitive of what has already been said and you would like to forego your time so that we have an opportunity to discuss the matter, that would be helpful. But I'm going to continue to call names, but if you would be willing to forsake your time so that we have an opportunity to debate the matter, that would be very helpful.
Excuse me, Mr. Corretz, do you want me to say that in Spanish?
Yes, please.
Okay. Lo que acaba de decir el señor concejal es que si muchas personas ya hablaron, como 40 personas, si lo que van a decir es repetitivo, si alguien ya lo ha dicho, no lo digan, porque para ellos tienen que tener tiempo para debatir lo que ustedes ya dijeron. Igual va a seguir llamando nombres, pero ustedes pueden decir y ya lo dijeron. Gracias.
Okay. I'm going to, well, go right ahead, sir. Por favor.
Mi nombre es Faustino Martínez.
My name is Agustino Martínez.
Gracias, señores concejales, por permitirnos escuchar a todos los vendedores ambulantes.
Thank you for having us here today on behalf of the street vendors.
Aquí estoy representando a todos mis compañeros de vendedores ambulantes a nivel de la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
I've been here speaking on behalf of all street vendors in the city of LA.
Estoy escuchando la petición de los restauranteros y se respeta la decisión de ellos.
I have heard also restaurant owners express their opinion, and I respect that.
Pero también nosotros tenemos que ser educados, los vendedores somos educados y también ellos tienen que tener educación para dirigirse a un vendedor ambulante.
And also we should all be treated with respect, and I think that when they speak, they should also be treated, when they talk about us, they should do the same.
Por eso estamos aquí en esa petición y qué bueno que están también ellos y les agradezco que estén presentes también para que nosotros tengamos ese diálogo.
I am actually happy that we all here, restaurant owners and street vendors, so we can have a dialogue.
Esto que no sea un debate y que no sea una contrariedad, que siempre estemos unidos, tanto ellos como nosotros.
We need to be united. I don't want this to become a controversial issue. Quite the opposite. I would like to have a dialogue and to come up with solutions so we can work together.
Y lo dejamos en manos, señores concejales. Muchísimas gracias por atendernos a todos nosotros. Gracias.
Thank you, council members.
Gracias. Señor.
Buenas tardes, señores concejales.
Good afternoon, council members.
Mi nombre es Humberto Yauli, soy vendedor
My
del
name is
sur centro de Los
Humberto
Ángeles.
Yauli. ¿Dónde vende?
Soy vendedor del sur centro de Los
And I
Ángeles.
am a street vendor in South LA.
En primer lugar, le quiero agradecer a todos ustedes por el tiempo que nos dan para expresarnos y dirigirnos a ustedes para que nos apoyaran.
First of all, I would like to thank you for taking the time to hear what we have to say.
En nombre de todos mis compañeros, les pido que nos den oportunidad. Somos personas que vendemos hace muchos años, pero nunca habían leyes.
On behalf of all my fellow members, I ask you to give us the opportunity. We have been on the streets, street vendors, but we didn't have a permit before.
Queremos que nos den una oportunidad para acatar las leyes que da la ciudad.
Please give us an opportunity to create laws, and we will follow the law.
Y queremos cambiar la imagen que tenemos negativa para que sea una cosa muy buena para los
And we would
vendedores.
also like to change that negative issue that some people have about street vending. We want to be this a very nice experience.
Y otra cosita, para muchas personas sabemos con discapacidad física y ya les es imposible conseguir un trabajo.
Also, we have many street vendors that are senior citizens or disabled that if they wouldn't be doing what they do, they couldn't get any work anywhere else.
Si fuera posible que bajaran el precio de los 291, que aún así es muy caro para nosotros, que para mucha gente.
$291, it's already a lot of money, so especially for disabled individuals and senior citizens. Please consider lowering that amount.
Se lo van a agradecer miles de personas porque les haría un gran favor a todos. Y muchas gracias por todo lo que están haciendo por nosotros.
Thousands of people will be happy, more than happy, and will thank you for doing that. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Okay. Rosa Miranda, Francisco Negrete, Gerardo Robledo, Patty Archuleta, please. Good afternoon.
Buenas tardes, miembros de este comité.
Good afternoon, committee members.
Mi nombre es Rosa Miranda, soy organizadora con la campaña de Legalicemos la Venta Ambulante y trabajo para East LA Community Corporation.
I am an organizer and I work for East LA Corporation, and we have been working to legalize street vending.
Quiero agradecer al liderazgo del concejal Price
I would like to thank Mr. Price for your leadership.
Básicamente, los vendedores ambulantes necesitan esas oportunidades.
Street vendors need an opportunity.
Una de las cosas es que queremos que ustedes, miembros de este comité, puedan anivelar lo que es el permiso que va a ser requerido para los vendedores de comida de salubridad.
You can level the permit for the health department for street vendors.
Los vendedores ya están preparados para poder sacar sus permisos de la acera.
Street vendors are ready to get for their business to take them out of the sidewalk.
Ya ellos han estado sacando su licencia de la ciudad y del estado.
Most of them have the license from the city and from the state.
Pero salubridad todavía no está preparado para su carrito que van a necesitar.
But the health department, I think they're not ready for the cart that they will require to do the street vending.
Queremos un programa exclusivo para ellos.
We would like you to create a program exclusively for them.
Mientras salubridad tiene lo necesario.
While the health department is ready to move ahead.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Please, folks, we're really running out of time, sir.
No tenemos tiempo para aplausos. No.
Good afternoon, council members. Listen, I'm here as a business owner because I am hurting financially because right now my sales have gone down, as you've heard most of my companions here. We started from fresh. We struggled in the construction of starting up a restaurant. We had to get permits just to put up a hood, to put in the floor drains, and to do everything from fresh. And right now, I mean, my sales are hurting, and just seeing those competitors just set up with a tent in front of my restaurant, taking away my business with the long lines of their tacos at a good price, I mean, that's killing me. So I want you to delegate. I don't know where you guys live, but in our city, we see it a lot. And I mean, just the fact that we can't make ends meet, we're losing employees. We're losing employees that have been there for quite a while with us. They started with us, but they're threatening to leave us because we can't give them enough hours.
Thank you.
So please consider that.
I'm sorry, what's your name, sir?
Francisco Negrete.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call some more names. Are you Mr. Robledo?
Yes.
Okay. Patty Archuleta, Miguel Diaz, Carla De Paz, and Mike.
My name is Gerardo Robledo. I'm not against street vendors, but I'm totally against to allow them to sell food. You, the council members, passed the SB 946 law, but since I know that is not in place yet, and there is not set for set restaurants on the street, well, the city of LA never contact any restaurant to pass the law. So am I asking you to rework on this law and let us, the taxpayers and the ones that put you in office, to have a voice, because we are representing thousands of our employees that are feeling a risk of losing their jobs since our sales are going down. Because even the law is not in place yet, there are many mobile restaurants working and operating without complying with the law. Even with the law in place, I feel that it's impossible to regulate those restaurants under the tent. Since I've been in the restaurant for 20 years, I know how difficult it is to comply with the law. So please, rework on the law. My American dream is on risk. That American dream I started 20 years ago, and I employ seniors, students, and persons with disabled.
Thank you, sir. And remember, we're only going to be discussing the permit fee today. So just, yes, go right ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Carla De Paz. I'm the Director of Community Organizing at the East LA Community Corporation, a member of the LA Street Vendor Campaign. My organization has worked with vendors for 10 plus years. My team is on the ground every day supporting vendors in this moment, trying to learn about the law, trying to figure out how they're going to do this work during this implementation process. And I thank this committee for considering lower the permit fee. As you heard from the crowd, they really need your support in being able to buy into this system. And we really think that
We need the city to invest in supporting vendors to be able to do this. We did this work to support low-income, mostly immigrant, mostly women, a lot of seniors to be able to do their job in a dignified way. And a lower permit fee will really help folks onboard onto this program. We're suggesting for the evaluation of the fee to also be done in a year to align it with what was already in the ordinance. And we're also asking the city to align its timeline to the county health department's timeline because the county health department's not ready to support vendors to do the county health permits. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Buenas tardes, señores concejales. Muchas
Good
gracias.
afternoon, council members.
Muchas gracias por tomarse el tiempo de escucharnos.
Thank you for taking your time to listen to what we have to say.
Mi nombre es Miguel Díaz.
My name is Miguel Díaz.
Soy vendedor ambulante.
I'm a street vendor.
Y quisiera decirles que desde 2008 que tuvimos la recesión,
And I would like to tell you that since 2008, when there was a recession, many of us
muchos de nosotros perdimos trabajo y tuvimos que recurrir al
lost our jobs. So we had no other option but become
para mantener nuestras
street
familias.
vendors.
Soy padre de 2 hijos, con mi esposa,
To put food on the table for our children. I have 5 niños.
2 niños.
I have 2 children and a wife.
Ellos dependen de mí, de los ingresos que nosotros obtenemos por trabajar.
So I support my family.
Y estamos pidiendo la colaboración y la ayuda de ustedes para que nos ayuden a sacar los permisos que necesitamos.
And we are asking you to help us so we can get the permits that we need.
Ahorita ya tengo 2 permisos sacados, que es el del Estado y el de la Oficina de Finanzas.
I have 2 permits now, one from the states and one from the finance department.
Y quiero decirles a ustedes y a todos los presentes que estamos aquí en esta tarde
I would like to tell you and the rest of the members present here today
que nosotros queremos pagar impuestos
that we do want to pay taxes.
y el próximo mes me toca pagarlos a mí.
And next month I will be paying taxes.
Nosotros queremos ser regulados por Health Department
We do want to be regulated by the health department
con unas leyes justas que puedan ser solucionadas para el carrito que nos van a proporcionar ellos en un futuro.
but we need fair laws so that we can work with the cards that will be provided in the future.
Y estoy preocupado porque viene enero y todavía un carrito de comida no está listo.
I am concerned because January is just around the corner and the cards, as I understand, are not ready yet.
Gracias.
Thank you. Gracias.
Okay, I'm going to call up the final names. Patty Archuleta, Mike, Katie McKeon, Lyric Kelkar, Wayne Spindler, and Juan Mandujano. Good afternoon. Come on up and take a seat if I called your name.
Good afternoon. I'd like to say that restaurant owners and council members, vendors are not the enemy for the problems that restaurant owners are facing. There are rising rents in the city due to real estate speculation and the power that developers have in City Hall. We're all facing poor public transportation, rising costs of gas, poor public education, and out of control costs for education. Now, all vendors are trying to do is make money. We have to unite together and talk about ways we can support each other. If there's obstruction in front of restaurant buildings, that's on the fault of the lack of outreach on the part of Bureau of Street Services. They've had a whole year to talk to vendors, and their educational program is absolutely abysmal. They have not talked to the members at all.
And your mic?
Vendor non-compliance is the fault of Bureau of Street Services, and the lack of language justice here.
Have a seat. Take your seat quietly, please.
The time has expired because we had to have a translator, and we've actually had no
sit down right
equipment to translate.
Have him removed, please. Have him removed, please. Have him removed. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. My name is Katie McEwen, and I'm an attorney with Public Counsel. We're a longstanding member of the Los Angeles Street Vending Campaign. I'm here to urge the committee to consider lowering the permit fee in order to ensure the long-term success of the program. I ask you to closely consider the letter submitted last night by Professor Victor Naro a UCLA expert in labor studies. To quote just one line from his letter, a wealth of literature on the informal economy supports the general conclusion that high costs and complex regulatory requirements will hinder efforts to formalize an informal sector. Sidewalk vendors moving into the formal economy are already subject to licensing requirements and permitting fees that are out of the control of this city, and such as county health permits, and we ask the city to holistically consider the barriers that vendors already face if the city wants the program to be a success. Thank you.
Thank you. Whoever's having a conversation, please take it outside. Go right ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lyric Kelker, and I'm with Inclusive Action for the City. We're a longstanding member of the Los Angeles Street Vendor Campaign as well. I'd like to uplift the work of the vendors to get themselves ready for this new permit system. Tomorrow, our campaign is holding a workshop in Canoga Park, and we're having vendors get their state seller's permits and their city's BTRCs. There's 50 micro business owners who are signed up currently, and there's a wait list of many more. We can help many vendors comply with as many of the regulations as possible, but if systems are not in place to align other jurisdictional permits, such as the county health permit, these new permits will not be as successful as they could be. Along with these barriers, the cost to the permit will inhibit the success of the program. We appreciate the work of the Economic Development Committee to lower the cost of the permit from $541 to $291, but it is imperative that the city work to lower as many barriers to entry as possible, especially for the vendors who have had to work informally for decades. A lowered permit fee as well as an alignment of systems will be the key source of success to this thoughtfully planned program. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call up Patty Archuleta and Juan Mandujano, please. Mr. Spindler. Come on up if I called your name.
Yes, that's right. Juan Mandujano, the great judge out of Tijuana. So that's why I'm saying I listen to this shit all day. $291 current price? How the hell going to be able to afford $291 out of their pocket for some license? Next to all the homeless encampments. You gonna clean up the homeless encampments first before you start charging? No. Are you gonna start waiving and lowering fees on mom and pop brick businesses and mortar? No. So what you doing, bloodsucker, is what you always do, pitting Latino against Latino, black against black, so you crazy fools can keep stealing the money, just like always. 42 United States Code Section 1983, fuck you.
All right, can we have staff come on back up to the table, please? And members? Questions, comments? Why don't we start with Mr. Blumenfield, because I know you're on a tight schedule.
Yeah, although I want to stay to the end so we don't lose quorum for the vote. But
Thank you.
Just a couple quick questions. Reducing the fee from $541 to $291. I've talked about in the past, I'm worried that if the fee's too high, vendors won't actually purchase them, especially in low traffic areas like in the West Valley. I assume the low fee encourages more people to get permits. If we want full cost recovery, what will the additional permits that we get make up enough revenue for that? Do both proposals have the same amount of revenue, or what's the difference and why?
So Nicole Trujillo with the Office of the CAO. So the $541 fee, it's a full cost recovery model based on 16,000 permits issued.
Yeah, pull it right up close.
Yeah. So the 541 is the full cost recovery model that we proposed, and that's based on the issuance of 16,000 permits. The $291 fee that was recommended by Economic Development Committee, that's based on the issuance of 20,000 permits, and it was using the add-delete rate rather than the full cap rate. So the 291 would have a general fund impact of approximately $2.8 million. And it could be more if there's not 20,000 permits issued within the year.
So it's a subsidized rate. It's the general fund subsidizing the enforcement, which is what I said would happen all along, and I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but that's what that means.
Yes.
And part of the problem is you can't have fees that actually, if you have a rate that's too high, then you create a perverse incentive for people not to get a permit, and they end because the fees, because of the state law, are so low that it doesn't it'll make economic sense for people not to get the permit because they get these $25 fees, and by the time they get up to the 500, they probably, the chances are they'll save money by not getting a permit is the problem. Is that correct?
Gary Harris, Bureau of Street Services. The state ordinance does allow for waivers of fines and hardship waivers, so that is correct. There may be less incentive when you factor in the amount that the fines would actually be.
Okay. And then if even with a 16,000 number or the 20,000 number, that's still only a third of the 50,000 vendors that are out there that are expected to obtain a permit. What is the enforcement process for a vendor that's found violating the street vending regulations and operating without a permit?
Under the ordinance, a person operating without a permit would be eligible for an ACE citation. Those are graduated citations that start at $250 with a possible fine up to $1,000. And that would be the extent of the penalty we'd be allowed under the current state law.
And for repeat violators, is there?
Repeat violators with the first ticket would be $250, the second ticket would be $500, the third ticket would be $1,000, and within a 12-month period, they would stay at that $1,000 until the year ends for each citation thereafter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Price.
Thank you. I want to thank, first of all, the testimony we've heard on both sides, and I thought it was rather conciliatory, one side to the other, kind of understanding and appreciating what's before us. As was stated, the Economic Development Committee did vote to lower the permit to $291 because we wanted it to be a successful program and wanted to give potential vendors an incentive to get a license as opposed to not getting a license, as was discussed earlier. The alternative, of course, would be an ACE fine, which certainly would not encourage compliance. And so I still stand by that, the lower figure, and I think that that's a better way of encouraging folks to participate in the program. On the other hand, we did hear testimony today and in my committee that there's some difficulty on the county side for those vendors who want to sell food. How are we working with the county to coordinate the rollout of this program, given that vending is legal statewide with the passage of SB 946?
Daisy Hernandez from the Economic and Workforce Development Department. We have been coordinating with the county. We've been meeting with county representatives to align our goals and how we're going to work the program. We've been in communication. We have held several meetings, so we're trying to work that out with the representatives that have been assigned to our program.
So I don't know if this is a question for you or maybe the city attorney, but could we allow for vendors who are in the process of obtaining their county permits to pay the city permit costs ahead of time?
I would defer to the city attorney.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Valerie Flores, Senior Assistant City Attorney. That's a policy call for the council. If you want to either defer the costs or provided somebody's applied to the county, grandfather their costs at a lower rate.
Oh, but that's a policy question you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Then finally, Mr. Chair, we've heard testimony, a lot of testimony about the not just the vending, but the pop-up restaurants that occur. And you're right, we've seen them on the corners with the tents and 5, 10, 15 chairs sometimes. What priority, and this is for BESS, any priority in enforcing our vending rules against particular types of street vendors? What's the thought? What's our philosophy?
Certainly any violation that created an ADA violation or a safety hazard would be our priority. Our goal is obviously to enforce all the rules and regulations, but those safety violations and the ADA violations would be our priority. And what you mentioned, blocking the access to handicap ramps at a corner would definitely fall in that category as a safety and an ADA type violation.
Or a tent that's covering the sidewalk, would that?
Tents that cover the sidewalk could also be an ADA violation because they could inhibit wheelchair access, so that would be a priority for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Price. First of all, let me just thank all of the folks who came down to speak. And it's especially good to hear the small business people, the business owners, the restaurant owners who have worked hard their entire life. And honestly, this city has not made things as easy for restaurant owners as we should. There have been tremendous costs that have been put on your industry. The hospitality industry is one of the main focuses of job growth in the city of Los Angeles, good jobs, and I'm appreciative that you've all taken time away from your business to be able to come down here and talk about some of the impacts that have come from an entirely unregulated environment of street vending in Los Angeles. The focus of the effort that the council has made to arrive at a street vending ordinance, in my view, other people may see this differently, but in my view, it's been to create a regulatory environment. It's been to allow people who are street vending now without regulation and without permission to be able to do so in a way that is part of a regulated environment, so that there is compliance with the law, so that there is payment of taxes and fees and other things, so that the county can actually effectively regulate health and safety code issues. And just for all the people who are here who are holding up their public health fee bill, that is a county fee. The City of Los Angeles does not enforce public health law on restaurants. That is the county's function. You have to talk to the supervisors about that, what their fees are going to be for street vending relating to that. That's not before us today. With that, I think I would just say that if we have a street vending ordinance and we issue permits, licenses for street vending, and we continue to have the sorts of things that folks are showing here of obstructed sidewalks, violations of basic health conditions, and the sorts of really somewhat lawless conduct that we see out there, this will be a failed policy. But I'm hopeful that by moving forward with an ordinance and a robust enough permit fee to be able to pay for enforcement, we will have an environment where we can remedy some of those challenges. And I know that's what everyone is striving very hard to do. And this is a hard balancing act to strike. One of the gentlemen who spoke, one of the people who spoke in favor of a higher fee was actually a food truck owner. And we had the same debate with regard to food trucks 10 years ago. And food trucks were seen as a big challenge to the brick and mortar restaurants. And somehow we figured out an environment whereby they can work and continue to thrive, and so can restaurants. And I hope that's what we'll get with the street vending ordinance and its permit fee as well. All that's before us today is the permit fee. A permit fee has to be justified by a cost study. That's what's before us. And so the question is whether we have the full cost recovery permit fee. We can't do anything higher than that, or else we would be going beyond what is within our authority to do. But we could do a partial fee if that entices more people to get involved, more people to come into the regulatory environment, more people to come into compliance with the law. And so I think that's the discussion that's before us. I think we need to move towards a full cost recovery model, because I want to ensure that we do have robust enforcement of the law. And I think all of this is based partly on some speculative assumptions that we make in the fee study about number of permit holders or applicants that we may have, for example. It could be 10,000, it could be 25,000. At this point, it's very hard to gauge until we have the experience of trying it and then readjusting it with a subsequent fee study to be able to figure out what the real world impact is going to be. So what I'm going to suggest is that in order to encourage the greatest amount of involvement as we can at the beginning, for the first 6 months, I'm going to recommend that we go with the $291 fee, but that fee goes up to full cost recovery at the $541 rate after that first 6-month period. And what that would do would be to encourage more involvement, encourage more, a front-loaded effort to apply for licenses so people can come in out of the shadows and work in a legal environment. But at the same time, after that 6 months, we will be on a full cost recovery trajectory so that anybody who's operating as a street vendor will be paying the full cost of what it costs us to be able to regulate that environment. I think that's the fairer result for the brick and mortar businesses, and it's not too much to ask for vendors who are making money out there as street vendors as well. So that would be my suggestion. I have some other recommendations to make, but members, that's going to be my proposal with regard to the fee amount. And then as far as the complying with the county's schedule for its regulatory structure, we are out front of the county now, as I understand it. They are lagging behind us a bit in this process. So we do have a situation, under my suggestion, that if people are rushing to get their street vending licenses in order to take advantage of the $291 fee requirement, the county may not be ready to issue their permits yet. So what I would suggest is that we allow vendors of food to reserve their permits at that reduced fee during that 6 months period, pending the issuance of the county health permits. It would become effective once the county health permits are in place. And then any future permit applications and renewals would be contingent upon first obtaining county permits where appropriate for food vending. So if there's members, if there's no objection to that. So I'm going to then read the following recommendations for action. Recommend number one, that we request the city attorney to prepare and present the necessary ordinances to effectuate the following annual fee for the sidewalk and park vending program operating permit. $291 until July 1st, 2020, and $541 thereafter, or until such time as a new fee study is performed based on experience with the program, or the council adjusts the revenue assumed from the fee in the budget. 2, instruct the Bureau of Street Services to allow food vendors to reserve permits at the reduced fee pending the issuance of county health permits. Future permit applications and renewals should be contingent upon obtaining county permits where appropriate. 3, request the city attorney to amend LA Municipal Code Section 42.13 as follows. A, change the title to Sidewalk and Park Vending Program. B, clarify that an operating permit will be required for each vendor. C, include the sidewalk and park vending operating permit fee as approved by council. 4, request the city attorney to amend LA Municipal Code Chapter 68, Section 5.460 as follows. And I'm going to ask the clerk to take over reading from here.
Section 5.460, creation and administration of fund. Subsection A, there is hereby created and established in the Treasury of the City of Los Angeles a special trust fund known as the Sidewalk and Park Vending Trust Fund, hereinafter referred to as Fund, to implement the provisions of Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 42.13. Subsection B, there shall be deposited in said fund annual permit fees and any revenue from fines associated with sidewalk and park vending violations. Subsection C, all interest and earnings attributable to the monies in the fund shall be credited to the fund and shall be devoted to the purposes of the fund. Subsection D, the purpose of the fund is to purchase or pay for salaries, expenses, equipment, materials, and services in support of the Department of Public Works, Bureau of Street Services, the Department of Recreation and Parks, and the Economic and Workforce Development Department. The monies received pursuant to subsections B and C will be used only in the administration of the Sidewalk and Park Vending Program pursuant to LAMC Section 42.13. Subsection E, pursuant to Charter Section 344A, at the close of each fiscal year, monies not expended from the fund shall remain in the fund and shall not revert to the reserve fund. Subsection F, The fund shall be administered by the Board of Public Works or its designee. Expenditures from the fund shall be authorized by the Board of Public Works or its designee.
Okay. And then in addition to that, I'd ask that we concur in all of the other actions of the Public Works and Gang Reduction and Economic Development Committees, except to the extent that those actions were amended by this committee's actions today. And I'd ask that we authorize the city attorney in consultation with the CAO and CLA to make any technical corrections to effectuate the intent of the council. Mr. Price.
I'd also, Mr. Chairman, like to ask the city attorney to put an urgency clause in this ordinance so that we can move this forward as quickly as possible.
Without objection. Any other comments or considerations, objections? If there are no objections, then that will be the action of the committee. Thank you all very much for your hard work on this. Thank you all very much, members of the public, for coming down and providing your comment. And that will take us to general public comment. Mr. Previn. Thank you.
Thank you. It is Eric Previn.
Folks, I'm sorry. Can you please keep the noise down as you're exiting, please? Mr. Previn has the floor.
Yeah, it looks like you lost your quorum, so it's just you now, but I don't know what to do about that other than to, there it is. Well, we like to fly...
Folks, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Your time's not going yet, Mr. Previn. Folks, please. I need you to... Silencio, por favor. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Previn.
Yeah, we're functioning a little bit without quorum, but that is what it is. What I wanted to talk about was from the financial status report, there was a suggestion that the county had charged an additional $6+ million than we were not anticipating for the 2020 election, March 2020 election. I'd like that to shine a little light on that because I don't understand how there could be such an enormous uptick, and I wonder if in fact the CD12 special election that happened and then the regular election that's about to happen could have been the cost driver there that has been inadvertently tagged to the March 2020 election. The point is that $6.3 million is a significant amount of money, and those elections, which were put together by Herb Wesson and Greg Smith, smell to high heaven, just to be completely fair. There was no reason under Section 409 to have that special election. It cost us a lot of money, and I think that's what we're experiencing in the FSR. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Spindler.
So yes, I bring good news. A great man who has been harmed and had his foot amputated by one of your false arrests Friday just got permission to sue for 5 causes of action. Hunt versus the City of Los Angeles, Part 3. Isn't that wonderful? You got to get arrested for speaking at a meeting. So they take you into custody, give you MRSA and an open wound. You get your fucking toe cut off for speaking at these goddamn meetings. You get beaten. You get almost assassinated like me. And in the case of Mr. Herman, multiple TROs. But let's remember, what started all of this shit was Karen Price saying Mr. Spindler should be made an example out of. No, Mr. Spindler was always the very first nigger to ever settle on this. Fuck all niggers, and God bless Michael Hart. Thank you.
Mr. Herman.
Hunt versus Los Angeles, civil rights advocate. Let me note for the record, Hess versus Indiana, we shall take back our fucking streets later or again. We shall take the fucking streets later or again. # Having street vendors, having people fight over business and permits truly is unconstitutional and fucked up. Yet, in Bagdasarian versus United States, page 9812, no less than troubling is the defendant's second statement. Mr. Herman said, "Shoot the niggers, let the country be fucked for all these years because never in the history has any person done anything fucking right. Your fucking permits are unconstitutional and be prepared for ADA violations of our civil rights."
All right. There being no other, I'm sorry. Please, come on up. Sorry about that.
My name is Alice. Yes, I would like to invite you, everybody, to come to see the street on the night. It's very difficult to walk on the street with those people doing things on the street, sell food that is not safe for anyone. I bought my house 20 years ago. I live in Sun Valley, and I had any street, not also street vendors, also homeless. In the cost of my house, they reduced too much. I worked very hard to put my kids on the university to graduate with my restaurant, and now it's almost lost everything because we had unfair competition. Just I would like to see, come in the nights and see how the city is.
Thank you. Was there anybody else that wanted to speak on general public comment? All right. There being no other business before the committee, we are adjourned.